catching a reflection in the mirror of something standing in the corner of my room, watching me, observing me. Is it my imagination or insanity? A strange hum, a flash of light. I'm become nothing but fright. Otherworldly beings taking me in the night. I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking me? Where are they taking me? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. I don't feel real. I wake up in my bed. Was it just in my head? Looking at my hand, there's something there. Inside of me, I'm feeling oh so scared. Confusion and nasty fear. It wasn't just a nightmare. So loud, so bright, hypnotizing me figures lost in time. I'm tortured, surrounding me tonight. I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking
dreaded flag, a vengeful sea. Be careful what you say. There's always someone listening. The Dutchman tossed on the sea. I swore and the devil heard me. Now we're doomed to sail the 7 seas for eternity. So yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. A sinister grin across his face said, you'll be doomed to this place. The devil heard my oath, shame of my boast. Oh, a ghostly ship from the depths, freedom from fear is the only gift of death. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. If you cast your eyes, you'll join us like those before. We're an omen of the ocean night. When you see the flying Dutchman, it's too late for your soul. To the waters we gave now our grave. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must go. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean wind blow.
Sirens of the Caspian Sea, the depths of the ocean we gather in splendor. Sunken ships and treasure, luring sailors with our songs, hypnotic hymns, promises of bliss, whirling and twirling. The warmth of the ocean, spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend, this tale, you're immortal, so frail. I'm a figment of your imagination. Our beauty, our soul, intoxicating, mesmerizing sound, ships running round. In calm or storm, you won't see the shore. Your final resting place, the ocean floor, swirling and swirling, the warmth of the ocean, spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend, this could be the end. A mermaid's tale, you're immortal, so frail. Swimming with the souls of men untold, watching their demise unfold. Never to grow old, their stories never told. The souls of the sea are now caressing me. Your final resting place, the ocean, the sea, the murder of men, no one will ever find them. Swirling and swirling, the warmth of the ocean, spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend, this could
Entombed for 3,000 years, wrath growing in me. I have lived an eternity, suspended in darkness. Release me, release me. Wasting and running. Release me, release me. Condemned and bound, the sands of time have run out. Curse fills the room, curiously open my tomb. Rising from the cradle of death, my sentence has come to an end. Release me, release me.
Okay, folks, I didn't realize the stream had been going for this long. So let's turn this down. All right. Apologize about that. I didn't realize the stream had been going this long. Oh. My back is hurting so bad. Let's bring our people on here. What's going on, guys?
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, stream has been going for 22 minutes. I did not know that. I apologize to everybody about that.
I think they're all having a good time in the chat from...
Are they?
Yeah.
I know I'd be aggravated, and I apologize to everybody for that.
I wonder how long the show would go if it was just the folks in the chat going back and forth.
Well, it could stream up to 11 hours and 59 minutes, and then it'll shut down on YouTube. But yeah, you could just leave it going, and people, you know.
Have you done that, Rob? Has that happened?
Yeah. Well, we did a lot of events, and some of the events were 14 hours straight. Once we hit 11 hours and 59 minutes, the people who were watching got cut off. So we'd have to, after like, what we would try and do is halfway through the day, we would cut it in half, right? Give like a 2-3 hour break and then pop back on at the end of it. So it was two different streams, like part 1 and part 2, because the first time we did it, it was like, everybody's like, where'd you go? Meanwhile, we had like 3 more speakers just keep going. And it never actually made it to YouTube itself, but it was on a recording. So we actually took those out later on and used them as like, you know, kind of like a content that was behind sealed doors for a little while, and would make it, you know, it would make like the light of day when it was time, basically, when it was the right moment.
Yeah. Well, I sent the link to James, but I don't know if he's going to be here because he works every day, and I know he works on Saturday, and then he'll go home and go to sleep, so he may not be here tonight. I mean, this camera keeps like making me blurry. I don't know what's going on.
I think when you sit back, it loses focus.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what's going on.
It's auto focusing.
Yeah, it's focusing.
Oh, I'm focused, man. Oh, the kitty.
Or you've got an entity behind you.
Yeah. Look, now dark.
Yeah. Anthony's messing with the camera to try to make me look better, I guess.
Oh.
I know what it is.
Can we turn the camera this way a little bit so the microphone's up front and center, and the microphone looks organic?
Your kitty's with you. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's trying to eat the cord to my headset. She keeps pulling on the cord on the phone. She's found play toys.
She wants to be a part of it.
If I let my just leave my studio door open, I literally, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 animals right there that'll run in here.
Well, Uncas is right now sitting between me and the screen, so I can't see much of what's going on. She was the
Wow.
last cat born, so
She's the baby.
Mm.
So
Okay.
the
last
pig,
of the Mohicans.
our pig decided to get into the guinea pig cage today. We still don't know how he did it, but he was in there eating their food, and they were hiding in their little house. And he was just in there rubbing down because he likes tomatoes. He's obsessed with tomatoes. So today I was like, hey, let's give the guinea pigs and the rabbits some tomatoes. We had these really nice, real beautiful, like organic tomatoes. And so I was giving them some, feeding them. And I guess Truffles, he heard it. He was in his kennel. And by the time he got his big butt out of there, I had already run back to the room. And I didn't get much sleep today. I got like 3 hours, but then I was exhausted. And he came out, and I could hear him. So when I came out, I had to go run to my mechanics because I have an account with them, and I hadn't paid them in 2 weeks, man. And it hasn't been because I just couldn't get there. I couldn't get there. So I made it a point to get up with 3 hours of sleep, get over there and pay. Because they fix our vehicles, the guy does it without, until I pay him, and so he's real nice about it, real great guy, man. And he owns 3 Meineke's, but he's a great guy. His name is Daniel Sells, and he's a good dude, man. His wife is battling cancer, so pray for her. But ended up being okay. I ended up, when I was out and about, I had to do a bunch of errands, and then when I got back, my wife had to go do something, and so I had to go with her. We were advised to not be alone because of the stuff that's going on, because there's a lot of stuff that people don't know that I'm not at liberty to talk about. So after what the police and the lawyers have seen, they were just like, do not go alone anywhere. So my wife wanted to go do something alone, and she had to run to the store because I was gone, and I said nope. So we had to go together, and she had to get gas, and we just... Oh, man. I almost got into an altercation with some people over gas, dude. We went to Sam's because Costco was just packed with people. And so Sam's had a bunch of people. And me and Anthony were sitting there trying to get in. And these people came and they pulled in right in front of us. And so I went over. This person did it again. Another person. So I said something. So these guys they rolled their window down and just started saying all kinds of craziness. And turns out they were Arabic. And so I started talking to them, and they started saying things, whatever. So we had a problem, and I thought, man, this is really bad. These people were, and one of them was a big dude like me, and he was being aggressive. And I was like, times have changed, man. You can't just get out and throw down with people because it always ends in a shooting.
Yeah.
That's what's, so.
Or something really bad. Somebody hits their head on the curb. I mean, it just ends up being a nightmare. And it's crazy, though. But people have been people are so oblivious to everything else going on around them. And then they act like that. And they expect you not to get out of pocket when they just do things because they feel so entitled to whatever they want. Oh, hey, kitty, just staring at the screen at me because I'm talking.
So there's nothing you can do. I mean, like, you have to just, deal with what's coming and what is here. And it's like, I just can't, it took everything in me. And so I had to get out and pump the gas with Anthony because he's not a big guy. And I didn't want them to see him and get more emboldened. So when I got out, I'm a pretty tall dude, and I'm big. So, at least that made them not, just one of them got out, pumped the gas, and didn't look at me again or say anything when I got out. So that was it. I think inside of my vehicle, maybe I look smaller. So,
oh yeah, for sure. Isn't it wild how when, like, I'm 6'2" myself, about 240 pounds. So when I get out of a car, people notice it too. But I think it's wild how they'll see somebody who's, of smaller stature. And I tell you, I've seen some of the smallest dudes in the world jump, punch somebody, and rock the hell out of them to the point where, that low center of gravity sometimes helps. I'll tell you that. But people, they look at others and they say, oh wow, I can take that guy, whatever. But you never know. Never know all the people I
arrested. I never had a single problem with anybody my size or above. It was always the guys about 5'6", 5'8",
Yeah, because
Wiley
they
guys.
act like they're fighting for their life. You know, even if you're just
Also-
trying to throw them out of a club, they're like, they go crazy. You know, it's like,
Also had this little female. She was about 5 feet tall. I thought this gal is going to kill me.
She's a wrecking ball. Call that a
How would
wrecking
that
ball.
look? You know, here I am, 6 feet tall, 210 pounds. Oh, you beat the heck out of this little girl. What? You know, it's like, so I was, well, wasn't going to let her go, but that was the worst fight I ever had.
you know, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight. You know, when we get a few more people in there, I wanted to throw a few things out there. I had somebody reach out to me. Now, this is going to be a topic for another show, I'm sure, but I'm going to have to talk about this because it's something that's come up again and again, and it involves people, you know, using narcotics. And one of the things that we're starting to see now is this fentanyl is in everything. I mean, it is in everything, but this isn't the first time that we've seen things laced. Back when I was young, they were lacing weed with all kinds of things, and it was causing hallucinogenic effects. And people don't realize that people do that. They do that because they're told by their chemists or whoever that messes with this, because these big drug distributors, they have people who literally work for them and tell them, hey, this is a better way. If you put this on this marijuana, or whatever other drug, and you add it together, it'll make them more addictive. It'll have better addictive properties. And so that's the whole point behind it. So it'll get people addicted. But they do things. They do incantations, and they do spells to make these products sell. And I'm not joking. Like, you know, you get shipments of cocaine, you'll see these weird stamps, symbols on there, and it's the symbol of that particular gang. But then there'll be another symbol sometimes with like a sticker on there, you know, and they'll put the Santa Muerta on there, which is like a symbol, you know, of or whatever that they're practicing. And they'll even tell you the deity. So this one guy, he messages me, he's from Mexico, and he worked for cartel for a long time. And he said, dude, they're using, you know, like demons, you know, to prop up the drug trade. It's literally being used. And these people you can't mess with them. I mean, these people are so powerful down there. They're pretty much calling the shots at this point. It's become a narco state, much like Colombia was back when Escobar was doing what he did. And I mean, I already knew it was headed that way back in the 90s. Whenever crap was happening, it was getting bad. And then it got to the point where you couldn't even go to Mexico anymore. You'd get your head cut off if you didn't have money to be ransomed. And so I was pretty much asked to leave by a restaurant owner who was being nice. Actually, he says, you guys need to go because the federales are coming, and the new ownership in that area was not happy with my friendship with some other people. So they were like, they're just going to eliminate all the old guard and get, you know, and so this was years ago, another life for me, you know, and so I had to cross the river. I hid out in a soccer stadium. We left a Jeep, a really nice, my friend's Jeep Cherokee got left behind, and it was rough, man. It was like we had to leave everything we had at the hotel, and we were unsummarily kicked out pretty much. And as we crossed the border, we were picked up by Chris's people. And so
it wasn't me.
It wasn't Chris, but it was his people. And guess what? It was Nuevo Laredo. It was Laredo. And so we crossed, and they picked us up, and they interrogated the crap out of us. Why are you running across? And of course, I just told them, look, man, you know, I was in there eating in a restaurant, and these guys started something, and I don't even remember what all I told them. But the bottom line is, I never went back because it was like not gonna work. It was like, I think that was 2001 or something, 2000, something like that. So I never went back. But it was one of those things where, you know, at least I didn't go back to Nuevo Laredo. I did go back. I went to Matamoros and, you know, and whatever. There was a place there called El Gatos. I used to go and hang out in there. It's a very nasty place. I wouldn't recommend, you know, the kind of places I had to go and hang out and stuff. But I didn't have to. But, you know, when you're, you know, but I knew back then that there were people that were doing really bad things, and they were doing, you know, Santa Muerta and all kinds of stuff. And so they pray over their dope to make people get more addicted. And so this guy gave me a really crazy story about one of the brujas down there and what they do and how they do it. And he gave me details, you know, whatever. The whole time I was talking to him, he had a voice changer on. And I told him, I said, it's not, and this is crazy because I told him, I said, it's not something where you got to do that. You know, you got to hide your voice. You know, I mean, you're safe, you know, from talking to me. He goes, this isn't for my safety, it's for yours.
Wow.
And
that's when you know you're onto something. You're like,
I was kind of like, okay, let's all right, yeah. So that was unnerving to say the least. You know, I've had another person give me a story through a third person, like on the phone. They were typing it, and the other person was like, and that person said 2 words, you know, that's it, basically like hello, you know. And then I said, what's your name? They gave me their name, and then they messaged that person. That person's going to be talking through me. Okay, because in their house where they were living up in Maine. They believed that the demon there was so powerful that if it heard them talking about them, it would start doing things. And so that's another story that was really whacked out. But we've had some weird PRT. We've had some weird ones, some weird things happen. We also had a woman that was our waitress one time tell us that she was getting messages from the Pleiades. Now get this. She comes to our table and she shows me like a message that somebody had typed from some weird number. The number was too long to be a phone number. I don't know why. It was bizarre. And it was like basically telling her, don't talk to them. Like that's what it said on there. So I don't know if that was what that was. I was like, and we were looking at each other. It was me and Stefan and Anthony. And we were all like, what in the hell? And she was showing us that. And I was like, what? So there's been some wild stuff that's happened, you know. And then another lady, after she waited on us, we were at a place called Baby Acapulco. She went in there to use the restroom, and she took a selfie because sometimes in that restroom there's a ghost that will appear in the mirror, and it showed. She came out and showed it. She goes, "Look," and you could make it out. Like if you put it on the Paranormal Roundtable group, it started a big argument. It's fake. It's fake. But we saw it. Like we saw it, and I said that is absolutely an apparition. That was absolutely it looked like a female. Part of her face looked skeletal, like right here, like it was, or it was the right side. It was like skeletal. And I was like, whoa. And so one of my friends used to be a waiter there, and he told me about it, that the woman's restroom, the story is that a woman went in there and she OD'd. She showed up all messed up, and then she just died, or she had alcohol poisoning or something like that. And so after that, the restroom was haunted and a lot of weird stuff. One of the women that worked there said that the door was shaking one time. And she saw this like skeletal hand on the top shaking the door, which was really freaky, dude. So there was a lot of weird, freaky stuff there. But so tonight, what I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to get you guys on board if you wanted to talk about it, is basically Bigfoot and Dogman from the stars, or if they're interdimensional. Now, a couple of the cases I'm going to present before you tonight, it's up for debate what could be going on. I mean, for me, I don't know, man. I can't. I don't know. Toss a coin. I mean, is Bigfoot an interdimensional being? Yes, I believe it is. Do I think that it's from another universe or the stars? Probably not. But I do believe that there are cases of this thing being from where they're from. And I don't know if Barton's still in the chat. I saw him pop in. He might have just been saying hi, but because he usually don't watch on Saturdays. But there is a case that he covered, and Barton he details it in his book Inhumanoids. Now, like with all of us, we've covered so many darn cases. They sometimes kind of run together, and you wonder what the hell this thing is. So I just messaged him. Maybe he'll jump on, or maybe he's busy. I don't know what he's doing. But another person that I just saw in the chat is Jill Remensnyder. Hey, Jill, if you want to jump on, this might be something for you and Brett. I don't know. I mean, because this is something up y'all's alley. And now Jill Remensnyder, if you don't know who she is, she has they did a documentary called. I guess Barton got a phone call. Yeah, well, stop talking to people on the phone, Barton. That's what I did today. The phone rang off the freaking hook. And then, of course, I ignored one of the calls, and then I get a message saying, "Oh, okay, so we're going to cancel." I'm like, "What?" It's like I immediately calls a new phone from one of my biggest clients, and I said, "Sorry, I was trying to ignore phone calls." So that's impossible for me. I can't do that because these people just say, "Hey, see ya," whatever. They don't care. So they will go find someone else, and they're our third biggest client. So I couldn't just tell them,
Can't
hey,
do
I
that.
don't really, I've had some clients where I'm just like, what are you giving me a week? 16 hours a week? Yeah, you're going to tell me that I need to do this and do that? Sorry. It's not going to happen. But when somebody's giving you, 630 hours a month, yeah, you will probably, do what they ask. So,
did you
and
see
most
Jill
of my
say
clients are
okay
actually pretty chill.
to come on in the chat? She said okay.
Yeah, let me send her a link real quick here if my stupid thing will act right. Facebook has really just not like it ever was some great platform, but it's gone to absolute dog crap lately, dude. Like I'm trying to get, I'll send you guys the link. I have to try 2 or 3 times, man, to get it to work.
I remember last week I got a blank screen. I don't know if y'all remember back when America Online was it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember beep burgers.
And then it was America and Canada, and America and Canada and Mexico. It was still called AOL, but it was America and the entire planet. And every time they added something, they never bothered to upgrade their equipment. So it was like you were taking a bowl of soup and handing it out to 500,000 people. Everybody was
take a
just getting
sip.
Sniff. Oh, it's more like a
Everybody
sniff.
take a sip.
But yeah, it got to a point. It was so slow.
It was bad.
Yeah, my brother sent me a picture one time of himself at work. It took an hour to load, and it wasn't that good of a shot.
That's crazy.
But yeah, they just.
Well, I sent it through Messenger, Jill. So hopefully you get that.
They bank on the fact that most people are going to stick with it. They're going to watch those little shorts, 30-second video, and they're not going to worry about the shows that are an hour and above.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped streaming to Facebook a while ago because I felt like it was to maximize my reach. I was trying to essentially funnel everybody to one spot, right? And Facebook was always a hassle. You had to reconnect every so often back to your page, and certain pages you could do some things and comment, and some you couldn't. It was like, what the hell? Like, this is crazy. People are like, oh, I'm in this chat. Oh, I'm in that chat. And it's really hard to watch 7 different chats at the same time, too. You're like, oh, that's enough. But now StreamYard does all that. Just puts them all into one, which is great.
So Barry, hold on one second here. Barry Kustachin says, I'm going to miss PRT family when they leave YouTube. What are you talking about? We're not leaving YouTube. We're going to be doing the Saturday show. Starting next week, we're going to do the show from Rumble. That way we can get into some real stuff. So this is our last Saturday here on YouTube. But we're not leaving YouTube. I mean, that's like people from Spotify. They're like, where are you? Where are you? And they're freaking out. And I'm like, dude, we're still here. We just did all of our work on YouTube this past month because I didn't want to mess with the podcast because we didn't have time to do all the editing and stuff. So we're just like, but that is a very important so we can't just abandon Spotify for sure. Spotify is very important to us.
Besides, you do their commercials.
Yeah.
They make you say them.
Always at the wrong moment. Like the monster is behind the door in the closet, and the woman reaches for the doorknob, and she's opening the doorknob, and then, want to make a podcast?
Yeah, and then my voice comes on there, and it's like, hey, would you like to be a...
Yeah, they made you read.
Man, it's really easy. Like
you had to read your own ads. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Why am I reading my own ad here? And then you get on there and you're like, that sounds crazy. I sound like a robot. Like you're trying to read because it gives you like 2 options right off the bat. So you've had like no podcasting under your belt, and you're like, let me just read this line as it goes, and you're trying to get it all in. But that's crazy. That's crazy. It's so funny. Want to upload this? Yeah, throw a commercial in there. Sure.
Yeah. It's always with iHeartRadio. At least they tell me. I don't listen to myself on the broadcasts. They say that they've got this computer technology that it finds a break in the audio where like you get to the end of the paragraph, you're catching your breath, you're drinking some coffee, and that's where they throw the commercial in, as opposed to sticking it in right between, the sentence. But you'd think
Go ahead. Sorry. No.
Well, you'd think with modern technology they would have a system that would say, okay, the commercial can go here, as opposed to the woman was reaching for the doorknob.
Maybe that's what AI is for now. But I'll tell you what, just to give people a little bit of a little excitement moving to the, when Saturday shows come to Rumble, I have a few topics that are so hot button issue that if I was to mention any part of that topic here, this would be taken down. And that's probably something I could throw into a Saturday show for everybody at the PRT family. And so we could launch with that if you really wanted to. And it's pretty wild. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for that leap. But it's going to start with Saturdays, and we're probably going to be doing a few like in between, because when I have something really that needs to be said, probably going to be going to Rumble to do that, because that would make sense. None of you biz, thank you for that donation. And then we have another one up here, Sugar Britches. Sugar, you don't got to do that. You already moderate. You do so much for the community. I see you like moderating for everyone out there. You're a special person. You don't need to donate money. You other fools do, though, however. because like that, my enemies don't make me beg, because I'm begging all the time. Please give me money. So that's how I roll. Jill, how are you doing, Jill?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. You've been on the show before, but we haven't seen you on the show. We haven't had you on the show like being seen. So that's new.
Well, thanks for having me. Last minute ad. Yeah.
Yeah. So well, the thing is, you did a documentary, a Flash of Beauty, and I've noticed that it's doing very well. It seems to be taken off. Like your YouTube channel just went cuckoo bananas. Like it was.
Yeah, the sequel, people, so there are two documentaries. The first one, A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Reveal. It's kind of like a Bigfoot 101. We made it for people like my parents who thought this was just a crazy conversation, but it's bringing skeptics to the table and kind of getting them, to have the conversation that there might be something out there. And then, we found out when we were doing the interviews, people would say, do you want me to tell you the other stuff? And I'm like, what do you mean? And, majority of the people who had a sighting also had something, I'm just going to say paranormal, because I think that's kind of the umbrella phrase for it. But people were having UFO sightings, orbs, mind speak, all the other kitchen sink things going on. So we kept the flesh and blood people happy with the first documentary, and then we did the sequel that gets into the real stuff. And that's the one I think most people are curious about and wanting to have a conversation about.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, in Barton's book, In Humanoids, there was one section that really intrigued me, which inspired us to do one of our earlier podcast episodes. Well, I don't know if it was earlier, it might have been the second year, but it was called Celestial Bigfoot or Celestial Sasquatch or something like that. And so there was a story that Barton had covered, and it was intriguing. It was this girl who had seen if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've read all that, but she sees like this Bigfoot type creature, and her dad freaks out because he worked in some sort of aeronautical industry or something, and warned her about those creatures and that they were not just extraterrestrials, that there was something else more going on with them. And so the more you get reports of Bigfoot and UFOs in the same vicinity, it seems like there's this whole push by the ape community. They call them apers, whatever, but they get really nasty and mean. And so I had an argument with one the other day in one of the groups I'm in, you know, and of course that's where you go to get all the fun stuff is the groups, right? The Facebook groups. That's where all the hyper intelligent people are. And so I just said this. I said, let me tell you something. One day you're going to come around. You're going to have to stop denying, you know, what people are saying, what's really going on out there. And you're going to have to be real with yourself. To thine own self be true. And I told him, I said, look, and then there ended up being like 50 something comments. And I think what ends up happening, the admins always end up taking it down because it's too controversial. Like there's always something going on in those groups. All they do is argue. It's all they do. And so it ended up getting taken down. It was like Thursday. And I wasn't feeling good already. And I was already in kind of a crappy mood. And this guy just kept attacking these people for their Bigfoot sighting because they said that it came out of an orb. And so this guy just went absolutely ballistic on him. I don't know this guy. He's just some ape. He started naming like certain people he follows. And I'm just like, well, yeah, I mean, you're going to watch a show where they go run around and find nothing. I mean, of course you're going to be on that team. I was like, of course, dude. And so we started kind of arguing and I said something and he's like, and then some other people knew who I was. So they said something to me and he goes, and he made it a point to go, I don't know you. I've never heard of you. And I'm like, okay, well, why do you need to make it a point to say that? I mean, and I said, and I've never heard of you either. And nobody ever will, you know, I said, but you're wrong. And you're just, you know, you're vehemently attacking this woman who's talking about what she saw. Well, one of the things that aggravated me about his statements, you know, it was this incendiary. He goes, these people that believe that Bigfoot and aliens exist in the same vicinities, like are completely out of their minds. And I said, there are always people that will leave your frame of thought to come to our frame of thought, but it never happens the other way. I challenge anyone to go from our belief to go to their belief and say, oh, now, you know what? I totally don't believe none of this crap. I just believe it's all just a big monkey. I just totally woke up, you know, and just said, you know what? I'm just going to totally quit lying to myself. It's a big monkey man running around out there. There is no orbs. There's no haunted house around on the property where this is happening. There is no UFO activity, and it's just a giant monkey. And so once you come to our side of the table or our side of the aisle, and me and Barton have had this conversation many times. We've talked about it in private and out. You know, we've talked about it at the conference. You can't unsee it. You know, what's done is done. I had a cousin who absolutely believed in ghosts because they lived in a haunted house, the farm where they used to live. But he didn't believe in Bigfoot at all. And his reasoning, and this is sort of a mainstream thing, he says, I just don't believe in the idea of a giant monkey running around out there that we can't find. And so when I finally broke it down to him last Christmas, and we were at the family gathering, and I said, look, it was Christmas Eve. And I said, look, I'm going to tell you like this. And I wasted an hour talking to him. At least I thought I did. And then about a month later, I ran into him again New Year's Eve. And he says, you know what? I thought a lot about it. He's like, I've been out there and I've been hunting. He's like, and get this. He's like, I was hunting. There's this place we called Sand Trap. It's a whatever. It's got a really weird name. Actually, it's called Bear Sand Trap, which is weird. I don't know why it's called that. But anyway, he went out there hunting. And he says, dude, me and my son were out there. He's like, and we heard noises like footfall, like footsteps. He goes, and we actually saw trees being manipulated and moved, but we didn't see anything. So he says, what is that? And I said, well, it could have been a Bigfoot. And he says, that's my problem. He goes, there's no ape out there doing it. It's just an invisible entity. It's a ghost. And because he believes in ghosts. And I said, okay. I said, 1 in 2 people in the United States has seen a ghost. That's the truth. That's the real numbers, right? So I said, you think that's a ghost, but it's out in the middle of nowhere at Bear Sand. Why would it be out at Bear Sand when there's nothing else out there? Right? I said, that's not a ghost. I was like, that is one of these subnatured beings, which I think Bigfoot is a part of that category. So fast forward to mid-March, and he messages me and he says, holy crap. We didn't say that, but he said something else. And he says, dude, he's like, my best friend, his best friend's just as goofy as him. I've known these guys for years, man. We grew up together. I call him Schneider. That's his nickname. So Schneider tells me, he's like, that he saw a Bigfoot. But what he saw, and get this happened in mid-March. Like, I believe it was like March 18th or something like that. He's like, he was out there on his property doing whatever he was doing. And he said, this thing walked out of the woods, and when it turned around to walk away, the lower part of the body was almost invisible. Then when it moved in the light a certain way, it was pixelated. And he's like, and my wife, she's over there. His wife's cool. Like my cousin's wife's like, tell him the truth, tell him she'll be lying. And he's like, I'm trying to tell him, And he's like, look, I'm not here to eat crow because I know your brother will, start messing with me, whatever. And his brother's like us, though. He believes. He's very spiritual. He believes in all this, but he doesn't really. And he's like, I know your brother are going to start messing with me, and come Easter, y'all gonna be mocking me, or whatever. And I said, yeah, probably. I said, we're family. We do that. I said, but what Schneider saw makes sense. So I got in touch with this guy, and he gets on the phone with me, and I'm gonna do an impersonation of him. He is a country person who tries to talk like he's from the city. Doesn't work. I did that, but it's hard to do. And he's like, yeah, what I saw was one of them Bigfoot type beings. I can't say for sure, but it was mixed with a ghost of some kind. So I started laughing. I said, dude, so you have a half Bigfoot, half ghost? And he goes, yes, sir. I believe that's what I saw. To me, it's funny because I've heard of this 1,000 times. I said, Schneider, he hates being called that. I said, Schneider, look. I was like, I know what that is. That's just a Bigfoot. It's serious, a Sasquatch. He goes, no, sir, that is not a Bigfoot. That is a ghost type Bigfoot. So I was like, okay, don't want to argue. He's like, I know what I saw. Yeah, see Corey Cole. He says ghost foot. It's a ghost foot. So I told him, I said, what do you think it was? If you had to choose between a Bigfoot and a ghost, you can't say that it was both. What do you think it was? And his wife in the background, right? Country people, the wives love to be like in the background yelling. And so she's like, tell him what you think it was. She's like, and finally she grabs the phone. She goes, Josh, they call me Josh. They do. My cousins though. And he says, she's like, Josh, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a damn alien. And he goes, it wasn't no alien. It was a ghost. I said, look, it wasn't a ghost, an alien. It was a Bigfoot. But we don't know what the Bigfoot is. Now, could it be a ghost? Could it be an alien? Yes, it could be. And the Dogman creature, I covered a report just like about 3 months ago there again. It was somebody out by the lake who told me they were out there on the lake fishing, Lake Travis, and they see these two creatures come out of the woods. And one of them, it looked like it was right behind the other, but then it disappeared. Now, I don't think that thing vanished into thin air. I think that it is some sort of form of cloaking or whatever. And this other one had to go kind of down this steep embankment because the lake is really low. So this is a physical creature. But two became one, which is really weird. So you got this really weird thing, and I've talked about this before too, where there'll be 3 Dogman-looking creatures, and they look absolutely identical. They're the same height, same everything. And somebody will say, well, those are flesh and blood creatures from the same litter. Bull crap, okay? There is something going on there. They were cloned by something or someone, right? Some kind of being or something. Clone these things, right? Or they're interdimensional and they're coming through. And now people don't, this is going to follow me what I'm going to tell you guys. When you go, if you were to theoretically be able to go through a certain type of wormhole, stargate, portal, vortex, whatever you want to call it, you could be split. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but like your 3 parts of the same whole have to go back into the one, if that makes sense. Some people don't grasp that. They think that it's some kind of magic or whatever, but really and truly what magic is just a science that hasn't caught up, So here at PRT, sometimes we just, we try to put our thinking caps on and we learn some stuff, and then maybe it's not your cup of tea. Some people just think, well, you know what, this guy's crazy and everybody on the show is crazy. Chris's cat is crazy, so they can believe what they want. But the bottom line is these people who have been the quote unquote gatekeepers for a long time with the Bigfoot phenomena, what have they achieved? There's a reason why everything we're doing, and this isn't about money, it's just the truth, is outselling everything that they're doing because people ain't buying what they're selling anymore. You've had 60-something years to get your mess together and come up with a viable theory that holds water, and it doesn't. It just doesn't. Now, if you want to be a cryptozoologist, like Ken Garrett, good friend of mine, he's a cryptozoologist. Him and Adam Davies, they go out and they do these adventuring things, and they look for things that are actual animals that once existed, may still exist, things like that. And that's an interesting thing too. But I'm going to say this right now, and Ken said it at my conference twice already. Dogman is not a cryptid. It is not a cryptid. This is not a cryptid. This is some sort of something else. We've taken to calling it inhumanoid because that phrase was coined by Barton Nunley. And they can't wrap their mind around like what it is, And now you even have some of the apers saying that we can't comprehend Bigfoot. Well, no shit. Because if we could, we wouldn't have shows like A Flash of Beauty. We wouldn't have The Beast of Rushy Creek, like Eric Palacios' show. We wouldn't have all these documentaries coming out talking about these creatures and the weird things they do. We would have all the answers, and it would just be in an encyclopedia, right? So in your documentary, what do you say? Like, what are you, and don't give it away so people will go and watch it, but give us a little bit about what you and Brett have come up with as far as what you think Bigfoot is.
I'll be honest, the more reports we get, the more people we talk to and stories we hear, I feel like I'm taking steps back. I feel like there's less I know just because there's so many theories on the table. I believe, Brett and I believe it is flesh and blood as well as a spiritual being. You look at, we lean on what Ron Moorhead says. Frequency, vibration, it can manipulate light. And I do believe there's a science to it. We feature in the sequel Dr. Simeon Hine, who wrote a book called Dark Matter Monsters, which gets into the science of how, there's all these reports of like when people see Bigfoot that like the pixelization or, the shape shifting. When it runs, it's gliding. It looks like it's gliding like a roller skater or an ice skater, all sorts of things. And he gets into, and this is like a whole other area that I am not well versed in, but he gets into the whole like dark matter, the quantum of it, and how perhaps Bigfoot has just learned to manipulate and use the science to do these things. You think of like squids and octopus that can, camouflage, go clear. Who's to say that Bigfoot hasn't been, and other cryptids for that matter, haven't learned how to use those natural sciences to do it themselves?
Well, if you take what you just said, okay, and like you said, squid and octopus, the cephalopods. I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. The cephalopods will rule this earth if we leave. If we're gone, I would put big money. Well, it's not going to matter because I'm gone, right? But so I would put big monopoly money, okay,
there you go.
In my will and testament to the whatever, that they would, without any sort of manipulation or tampering from anyone else, there would be 3 candidates. Primate, of course, being one of them. That's absolutely going to be a Planet of the Apes type scenario. The cephalopods or whales. But I think, for my money, it would be the cephalopods because cephalopods, when I was at the Corpus Aquarium, I love anytime I'm in a city where there's an aquarium. I've been to one in Seattle, Portland, Corpus. I go to the aquariums always. And they had a beautiful, she's such a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful octopus. And she was sneaky. She was getting out of her enclosure and she was going and across the floor. And she could fit, she was, crawling up and getting into where the baby sharks were getting, and she was eating them. And they couldn't figure out how this was happening, so they repositioned their cameras. And I'm a security guy, so I told them, I said, where are the cameras pointing? And then they explained, they're like, look, we had to change the cameras, and it took them like a month to do that. And I'm like, bad security. So I told them, I said, your security could have figured it out real quick by just moving the angle. They had bad cameras too. But I told them, I said, you could get a good angle, to see what, and so they did. And what they told us was shocking. That this thing was, and she was growing really fast. So, but these octopus don't tend to live more than maybe a year in captivity. So this girl, she's been there for 3 years now, and that's because she had figured out a way to enhance her diet. And they do like to eat the cartilage. They utilize it, and they have like these really, really soft jelly-like joints that go in between it's in their flesh. And so what you get when you get the cephalopod is a really complete being that can do things that defy logic. There's a video on YouTube where there was a hole about that big, and this octopus, which was like, had squished itself and slithered out in between.
Oh, I saw
you would
that.
think that if you saw it, if you squeezed the human's head like that, it would pop like a grape and your brains would be gone. This thing can do that and not even hurt its brains. Because if you were to chop off a tentacle of a squid or any cephalopod or an arthrocephalopod even, this thing has intelligence it's still there in that limb. You sever a finger off of us, a primate, human, whatever, it's done. There's nothing there. It's just genetic material that will die.
Doesn't it grow back too?
It can grow back, yes. And lizards have that ability too, but not all of them. That's the thing. These things have a hyper ability that scientists now, there's a push that there's scientists saying, and I'm not talking about just like, anthropologists or marine biologists or etymologists. They're all agreeing that they believe there's some in every, it's starting to become mainstream now that they don't believe they came from here. Now we can say that they didn't, that they were bioengineered somewhere else, or they came from some other place. But the bottom line is, they do things that don't make sense. It's hard to comprehend, just like when people say, hey, they've conceded that the Bigfoot phenomena doesn't make sense. This whole where they pixelate and they become some sort of weird, like that predator effect. I call it the predator effect. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to call it the Glimmer Man. There was a movie about that or something.
I've got a theory on it. I really do. I just formulating it in my head.
Throw it out there
too.
Hey.
So we know that when people encounter, well, let's say one of these Bigfoots or Sasquatch, there tends to be a smell, right? Some sort of smell that people have. What if that smell is not just a smell, sort of like the skunk? It's a defense mechanism that has a chemical reaction to your body, to your nervous system, and to the ocular cavity, in such that because so many people are seeing these different things that are happening, but they're somewhat similar, that that's like if somebody was to, let's say, smoke weed, like different things happen to people when they smell marijuana and they start to get contact high, or it doesn't affect people at all. Some people can't see, some people get paranoid. But what if that's happening to the body? But it's not just the smell itself. Maybe a pheromone is released within that smell, and then that frequency that Sasquatch is resonating at has the ability to affect you as well. So it's like a multi-layered or a tailored attack, in a sense, to keep itself safe. And it's learned this through chemical means of nature, right? Like, let's say it finds certain plants that it eats, which helps it release this pheromone, or it eats a certain type of meat that's out there. And I mean, I have a whole theory on where Bigfoot came from too, but we can get to that later when we start talking about well, something like that. But it'll have to do with extraterrestrials too, and what was here before they tinkered with us and what became us, right?
Squid.
But I think
I was just reading the comment. Go ahead.
That's like a chemical reaction to the smell, or possibly even the sounds that we're not actually hearing, that our ears aren't registering. And it's causing some sort of snap of psychosis or some sort of hallucination where the pixelation begins. Maybe that's why, like, when you affect the body in certain ways, like when you're diabetic and your blood sugar is low, things seem a little bit like tingly or brighter with the, like, off the light and things like that. So, maybe that's a simple answer to a very complicated question. I don't know.
Well, one of the things I think, and this, I'm going to say this, that there is a lot of theorizing going on, postulating on theories too, that what we're dealing with when it comes to the cephalopods is that they actually pass on their actual like knowledge to the next generation. Like they are their own next generation because they're short-lived, but that doesn't really make sense for them to be that short-lived when they have that much intelligence. So we know that when we die, we pass on what we call an ancestral memory, right? But what the science is telling us now is that possibly, and this is a marine biologist who was telling me this, but it's interesting. And one of my friends is a molecular biologist. And so I kind of hooked them two up and they started, I wish that they would come on the show, but they're academics and we talk about weird stuff. So they would be looked at as cuckoo if they came on here and talked with me. So, we can talk at the speakeasy down the road, but you don't be seen in public with the gangster. But what's crazy though, is like we were talking, we were having this three-way conversation and I've known one of them for years. I call him El Nino. He's the first one that ever taught me about the El Nino cycle, whatever. He's a very intelligent guy. He used to work for me years ago. And his name's Edgar. But we were talking, and I said, I want to introduce you to somebody. So I introduced him, a molecular biologist, to a marine biologist friend of mine. And what he was telling Edgar was that they're thinking now, and this is something that Edgar had already thought about, was that these things actually pass on their memories to their offspring. So that one octopus that thing it's born having an ability. Panzer, quit. No. Okay. My cat is okay. He's gonna do what he's gonna do because nobody's gonna stop him. Okay, he stopped. My cats they're worse than the dogs. The dogs come out and they tear something up. You see it later. The cats do it right. They do it right in front of you. They're like, and they look right at you. They don't. Little buttholes, dude. So what ended up happening, he said that there's an ancestral memory that is passed down because they've done all these experiments with octopi, octopus, whatever these different types of cephalopods, and they absolutely have a memory that is passed down to their, like one of their offspring will be affectionate and loving toward a human that their mother, cared about. It's weird, man. It's really weird. And like he said, that there's like a fourth generation octopus whose mother he had gotten from the wild, and when she gave birth, and then the other ones gave birth, and they just and there's always one or two of them in the little pods that when they grow that are just really attached to him. And he thinks that it comes from the ancestral memory, that memory is the same memory, just a little bit diluted because then they're adding stuff to it, whatever. But they can see through the eyes of their ancestors going back possibly millions of years. So you can imagine an animal that they are, for the most part, pretty benign. If they weren't, they would have already come out of that ocean and taken over this world. Now, we have also heard of the Cthulhu type beings that I believe have done that. And I was Chris Garitano, a good friend of mine. I know you guys probably know who he is. And we were talking about it one day, and he said, dude, imagine these things coming out of that black abyss, Cthulhu-minded and being completely not benign. And I was like, yeah, that's something I've thought about as a nightmare. Think of the Berkeley Square Horror. I don't know if you guys know that. My friends over at Expanded Perspectives did a really good job of retelling it. It was a guy named Warboys who had actually broke that story, but there were many tales of this creature that was attacking and killing and eating sailors, and from all descriptions that people could Scotland Yard looked into it. It's a real thing, like in the 1870s, and they said that it looked like an octopi type being, that it had the ability to disappear. Now, to somebody in the 1890s, whatever, they're going to think, oh, this is a ghost, demon, creature, whatever. But what if it's just a really advanced one? Or what if it's from the inner earth? What if it's from another dimension? And what if it's cloaking? And what it does is it eats people. Because I've had people tell me, witnesses, that they've been on board craft, they've been inside facilities, and they've seen octopus, squid type beings that look humanoid, sort of humanoid, but when they move, they don't, it's like their feet don't touch the ground. It's kind of like what Jill was saying about Bigfoot kind of gliding. I've heard that so many times. There was a guy in Mississippi recently who told a story to me about, because he had heard me talking about the werewolf confessions or whatever. And he said, I saw something like that in my house in Mississippi. It was in Tupelo. But he said, this thing like kind of glided across the floor. It was almost like a wraith, like a phantom. But when it hit the table, he goes, I was like bleary-eyed because I'm rubbing my eyes and I'm trying to adjust to what I'm looking at. And this thing, I could see through the part of the lower legs and the back end of it. Kind of sounds silly, but the butt, it had a human-like butt. And he goes, but I could see through it. And I was like, what in the hell am I looking at? But when it hit the table, it manipulated the table. But then it went out the back door without opening the door. So I will tell you this. If you go out of your body, and this is going to sound weird too to the uninitiated, but like Bane says in Batman, we are initiated. When you go out of your body, okay, what I call that is kind of the in-between state, you know? You're not really in the fourth density yet. You're still kind of like in you have a physical type like form, but you're not whole. You know what I mean? And you feel, from all the different things I've heard of from different paranormal researchers, you feel like this. You're like a sponge, but a softer, squishy sponge. I had a lady tell me that this ghost grabbed her and she bit it. And she's like, it was biting into a Nerf football. I said, how would you know that? She goes, because when I was a kid, I hated my brothers. And so I took their Nerf football and took a big chunk out of it. She's like, I'll never forget it. 33 years later, I bite this thing that's grabbing my husband. He's asleep, and it's like something that's aggravating him, trying to wake him up. She reaches over. She's like, I don't know why I did it, Josh. I just instinctively bit it, and it was like a Nerf football. So I took one of these stress balls, and I took a bite of it, and I bit down. I'd never chewed something that was like that. I chewed it a little bit, and I was like, what the hell? The texture is so raw and so weird. It's like, I can't imagine somebody doing that. Obviously, don't do this, please. I'm going to have to put the disclaimer: do not eat these balls. I'm not responsible for it in your throat or in your stomach. And if you can't poop it out and you have to go and get the obstruction removed, Paranormal Roundtable is not responsible. Please do not do this at home. But people will actually, tell me that they not necessarily biting these things, but feeling them, and it feels like a sponge. Well, that's that in between vibration. Like Ron Moorhead and me have had this conversation. Literally, I have sat here and I have talked to Ron Moorhead on the phone, and he was the OG in this, right? He was the one that the Sierra sounds and everything. And he's told me, he says, and Ron, he talks like this. He says, everything is vibration, Josh. You got to understand. If you're on the right vibration, you'll hear these things. Is what they say. He talks just like that. And he was just giving me a full-on lecture, and I listened for like an hour to what he had to say. And get this, I've talked to Lauren Coleman, same thing, for like an hour. Now, Lauren is one of the only people I can say who was kind of on the fence about what this was. He did the name game. Why are there different places like Taylor, Michigan, Taylor, Mississippi, and Taylor, Texas that all have werewolf encounters? Kind of weird, right? It's the name game, which also leads to two different things going on there. One sounds totally unbelievable, and it's the one that you would use rationally, which let's just forget it, because it doesn't make any sense. Some families came from somewhere else and they all just founded towns named Taylor and they were all werewolves. Bullshit. I don't believe that. What I believe is that it lends credence to the idea that we're living in a simulation, a vibrational simulation, an agreed upon illusion, a matrix, if you will. And that's why those names have that particular whatever. That could be the most plausible theory. That's the one I think is most plausible. But like Ron has told me, everything is vibration. So when you have something that is in that vibrational state of the Nerf sponge, whatever, that's kind of where you're at. In my out-of-body experience, at one point, I tried to go through a wall. It wasn't like a steel door. It wasn't metal or anything like that. It was just drywall. And I kind of bounced off of it, and I was like, whoa. So I just kind of rolled and went right. Then I went through it. And then you're out of that room and you're, whatever. But then there are other states of consciousness where you just go right through everything and you're literally a ball. You're just a ball of light. And in another state of consciousness, I've only achieved it one time and I can't really, it was so brief, but you could see in all directions, which is really impossible to explain because it's another dimension, another density that if you and the science backs what I'm telling you, it really is there. And what you got to do is everybody needs to go out and get a friend that's a scientist. And I'm kidding, I'm joking. But if you have a friend or you know somebody who is into that type of whatever it is you're looking for, I'm telling you right now, talk to them, because that person can give you information, even though they may not believe a lick of what you're saying. At least they can give you the information, the facts on how the science would work from what we know. Now, we also know that we're very dumb and science is incomplete for us. So that being said, I don't want to leave you out, Chris. So what are your thoughts on the Bigfoot being the ghost foot? What do you think?
I don't know about the ghost foot, but I do believe that there has to be spirits lurking, lingering around of other than just humans. We've got ghost trains, ghost ships. We've got cars that speed up and down the highway and then disappear. A lot of people say, well, how come ghosts are always wearing the same outfit? I've got a story from here in town, a guy that used to be the librarian here named, ouch, now my cat just jumped off my lap, Wahardo. He was the librarian, and he was the head of the ghost hunting club. And they went to this store where the people working there kept saying this old lady would come in right before closing every day. Sometimes she was in a dress, sometimes in a coat, sometimes a pantsuit, but she'd always come in right at the end of the shopping day. She'd go towards the back of the stores and disappear. But she was never dressed the same. They eventually discovered that her house used to be right where the store was then, and she had issues with young ladies wanting to steal her son away, who also was dead. They were women sinvergüenzas, as she said. And the ghost hunting team, they eventually managed to convince her to go elsewhere. It also helped that the store closed and it became a convent. But yeah, there's got to be ghosts of Bigfoot. Otherwise, why everything else can have a ghost and not them. As for paranormal Bigfoot, that's always been my belief. But we were at the South Texas Bigfoot Convention in Huntsville, the first one. What was that? Before the Black Plague came along. And I met this guy standing in line, and he was telling me that the experts didn't like to talk to him because he had some Bigfoot stories, but they coincided with UFOs and disappearing people. And he was telling me that he lived right there in the area around Huntsville. In fact, he was part of the firefighting team. Whenever they had a wildfire, he was in it. He worked for the state. And he was saying that he would notice in the newspapers there would be a bunch of UFO sightings. People were talking about it. And he said then there would be a bunch of Bigfoot sightings. And then somebody, one or two people, would disappear, all within the same area, within the same period of time. I was so fascinated with this guy was telling me. I was writing as fast as I could in my notebook. I never bothered to ask what his name was. It was just one of those things. You meet a guy and start talking, and the next thing you know, you're best friends, and you have no idea who this person is. But I've always
or you say hi to somebody and they and then the next thing you know, they're texting and emailing you, or not texting, but blowing up your messenger. I'm like, okay, and then they're mad because you didn't give them the memo. Like, I don't understand.
But yeah, there's been so many instances though where people have reported they saw Bigfoot. They're following the tracks. They've got really good tracks. They step here, gone. They disappeared. And of course, whenever the experts start hearing this sort of thing, they don't want to talk to these people anymore. I was trying to find my book on the shelf back here. It was from a Georgia deputy sheriff, and he had an encounter. Bigfoot was terrorizing these two old folks living out in the middle of nowhere. It would come and it would bang on the side of the house in the middle of the night. And he thought it was just some kids messing with this old couple. And so he went and he starts finding these great big tracks. There's just some barefoot hillbilly running around. So he's going to follow these
37-foot.
He's going to follow these tracks back to the trailer park. I hope it didn't offend too many people there. And he follows the tracks out into this swampy area, and they're sinking into the mud, and then they're gone, completely vanished. So he contacted a particular organization that is very famous, and he was telling them, oh, yeah, there's Bigfoot beating on the house, followed the tracks, and they disappeared. Hello? They hung up on him. But yeah, I've always been of the opinion that Bigfoot there is a creature living out there in the woods, a hairy creature. The Indians considered him a man. You don't mess with that guy because you don't know what he might tear your arms off, or he might give you a banana. Oh, we didn't have bananas yet. But they believed that there was a hairy tribe of giants that lived in the woods. Then there's this other thing. We don't know what it is. It comes and it goes as it wishes. It appears, it disappears. I've been hearing this a lot lately. The sound of what people describe as a metal door opening and closing. And then they have this Bigfoot sighting. Portals? I don't know. But that's my take on the subject.
The metal door thing happened to me on one of my job sites. We kept getting, I did this live. I don't know if you guys know. I know the audience probably knows. We had like a few hundred people there, and it was like 4 in the morning. There were a few hundred people, like 400 and something at one point. And so I was at one of the job sites at a place called the northeast end of a job site we call the Wall. And they built that wall. I mean, they figured out they had to put this wall up, and the wall, the metal part of it is like 6 foot. I mean, that's not. There's like an 8-foot embankment below that, so it's about 14 feet high, and still the people managed to scale it and get through it because whatever's in those woods, they don't want to be around those woods. And we have stopped so many people, not me personally, but my guards, and have asked them, what the hell, why are you trespassing through here? Can't you just go down there and cut through by the creek? And they're adamant that they don't want anything to do with whatever's in those woods. And before something happens out there, it's happened multiple times. My guards have reported it. They've made reports. We get them, the reports. I read the reports. It's crazy. They'll talk about a metal door opening or closing, slamming. And then they'll start hearing these hyenas type sounds, like these whatever. And then they'll hear this shrieking and this roaring. Now, when I was there that one night and I went live, I heard some of those sounds. And it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And the guards themselves that had been out there had told me the weird stories. And my brother's out there, he's the supervisor, but he was telling me, he says, unless you come out here and you experience it for yourself, there's no way to, for a long time, he was hearing these sounds, and he would get up to go do his rounds, and he would get radioed from the guards saying, hey, there's something over here, man, but I don't see anything. So we had a guard about 3 months ago do something. They brought an infrared camera, but the camera was not charged fully, which sucks. Well, okay, their story was that it was charged, so something drained it. That happens. That really does happen. I can't tell you how many times that I've been a place where batteries, even like the watch batteries, go dead, right? And which is one of the reasons why when I started working certain posts, I just started using kinetic. And so, anyways, these and my cell phone will drain, and it'll even drain the battery on your vehicle, like a truck. I had 2 interstate batteries on one of my trucks, and it drained them both. So that does happen. But this person got heat signatures from something that they couldn't see. And they were tall. One was much taller than the other. In fact, one of them was not even tall enough to be, it was humanoid in shape, but it wasn't like a child. It was kind of a dwarf-like being or something, but it was standing next to something that was way, way tall, about 9 foot. And the being that was next to it was about 1.5 feet. but it was squatted and humanoid in shape, which was really bizarre. So yeah, that happened. So you got a person out there that did that, and the other guards were in shock as to what they saw. We were getting calls from the company that does the Sentinel camera people, whatever. And I showed people on that episode. I went and I stood in front of one of the cameras, and it's like, warning, warning, blah blah blah. You're in violation of whatever, blah blah blah. Welcome to the future, asshole. Whatever. So you're sitting there, you're going like, what is this? Like that these things are sometimes slipping through, and they're not being caught by the camera. They're not being caught, but the humans are seeing them, and then sometimes, get this, the camera will pick it up, and we'll get a call from these people who are monitoring it. They're like in Montreal or something, Toronto or something. They'll call me and get me out of bed because because there's two other people who should be answering the phone at night other than me. But if they're not doing their job, or if they're really busy, I get it. They'll call me, and they'll be like, "Hey, look, we saw something weird on camera." Now, one of these ladies, I got to know her. I started talking to her. And she told me, she's like, that side is weird. She goes, I've seen some weird stuff on these cameras. She saw something, get this, that looked like a jellyfish float in front of one of the cameras.
Oh, man. Imagine that phone call, right? Oh, we see a leprechaun and a Bigfoot. They might be chasing a pot of gold. They're out there in the back.
So what ended up happening when she told me that, I said one of the guards was sitting right there. He wasn't asleep. He was looking straight ahead. And he even kind of turned his head at one point, and this thing went right by the camera, right by him. It set the camera off, because you could hear it. You can hear the, whatever, warning, warning. And he just ignores it because he thinks it's, who knows what it is. It just happens all the time. So I questioned that guy. And he's been working for me for years. And I said, dude, did you see this thing? And he's like, no, I didn't. And I didn't show him the video because he said he didn't want to see it. I said, okay, because he's out there all night. I don't want to scare the crap out of this dude. Yeah. But I did see it, and it was wispy, and it was kind of hard to make out, but it did set the camera, the alarm off on that camera. So you got this weird kind of stuff going on, and you got all these crazy homeless people that are coming through that property, because what they do is they come from another part of the city, and they go and they think that, oh, this is a cool place to bed down. I'm going to set my camp up out here. And then something harasses them. And now we have somebody, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen, who told my brother that she was camping out there and something large, hairy, and bipedal grabbed her by her ankles and pulled her out of her tent. And she began kicking and screaming at it, and she fired a 38 at it and got it off of her.
Is there any blood?
No blood. She just fired into the air. Right. And we hear gunshots back. I say we, but my guards hear gunshots all the time. And that back one night when I was there, I had just showed up, and the guards they had just told me that somebody had just did a mag dump, which is like bang, 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 like 16 shots. And then that was it. And that woods go way, way back. So, I mean, who was back there shooting off a semi-automatic weapon, and then it sounded like they reloaded and did it again, according to the guards. They're far back enough to where if they were at the other end of those woods and they aimed right at the building, they wouldn't hit it. I mean, that's how far back it goes. So we don't know. And when it first was being built, I walked around that area because it was just a big slope with Scorpio and Tony Mushu, the one from the show. And we walked that grounds back there, and there was like these weird pits that were made into the ground. Like somebody had dug like something was dug out at some point, and they were filled with like water. And I was like, whoa, watch it. So we had a flashlight, and we were walking around at night, and there were these weird little mounds that looked like little pyramidal mounds, Talking to some of the people that I know in the Native American community, they were telling me that those belong to the little people.
Yeah.
And so maybe something was disturbed, but the build stopped right there at the wall where they put the wall up. But the homeless people themselves could be responsible for knocking over those mounds. They were driven kind of out of that area because the way it's built, if you come in off of the main street, which is a very busy street here in Austin, and you go down, and then you go around in a little like a whatever kind of whips around, and then there's 200 yards, and there's about 60 yards of apartments at the top. The difference is about 60 feet. Like it's a steep, like, you know, then you go down about another 20 feet, then another 15 feet. So it's this really steep hill. Why they chose to build on that, and it's taken them 2 years. 2 years, they still haven't gotten it built, man. And so I know all the guys that are doing the building and everything, and I was teasing them the other day. I said, is this the longest project? They said, yes. It's taking forever, and they can't get things approved. Like the city has to go and like inspect it. But that, you know, one of the cops that showed up one night, he was out there and he was shooting the breeze with my brother. And he told my brother, he said, dude, they found bodies back there, you know, in that area back there. And he said that several years ago, they found a body that was half eaten by something.
Oh, man.
Yeah. He told my brother that, like, straight up. He goes, yeah, back in 2017, you know, we found a body back there, something 16, 17, something like that. And so my brother was telling me all this stuff. I haven't hashed it all out with him to get him to give me all the information. But it would make sense because I don't know, you know, the place where Scorpio is at, where he stays most of the time, the tribe, I say tribe, the tribe of weirdos that are there, they claim that they're living over there because a cannibal group of homeless people drove them out of their area. And the leader of this group, I call her Queen Boudica. She actually, that's the Celtic, you know, queen. Because, you know, she's as big as a minute. And when I first meet her, you know, I'm like dressed like, you know, like we do, like we're prepared for whatever. They come out with like their little spears and whatever, you know, and we're wearing like vests and stuff. And I'm standing there at her. She's like, she started calling me Matt Dillon. She's like, oh, Matt Dillon, Gunsmoke, whatever. I'm like, oh, cool. I like Gunsmoke. And then she's like, that's a big gun you got there, but it ain't going to do no good. So what's up in these woods? She's got a little wooden stick, you know, and I'm like, and there are these two big guys behind her. And I'm like, who are you? And she's like, basically said she was the boss lady, you know. And she's like, I run this place. I'm blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, this is an apartment complex, lady. I don't know what the F you're running. Okay. If you looked around and I said, you're bathing in our swimming pool.
It's my territory.
Yeah, it's her territory.
Get out.
Like, she told me that she was going to take poop and put it on everybody's doorknob.
Oh, fun.
I said, I'll mark my territory with shit. I'll put it all over. And
sounds
she goes,
like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Sounds like Bigfoot. Modeled after. It's like they set up to a bad joke. You know, well, so we're in the woods with a
bad comedy.
And Bigfoot.
Rob, you have no idea. You have no idea. You have no idea.
Wild.
So this person tells me that she's going to let me live, right? And then she got aggravated because my nephew got into a fight with one of her boys. I don't know if she says it's her son, but she has like 50 sons, I guess.
One of her
one of my sons got into a fight with one of yours, and yours got the better of him because he cheated, and you know, and I don't know how she tried to say he cheated, whatever. And so anyway, my nephew whooped his ass, and they come back with 3 or 4 more, and so then the police come and whoop their ass, and then it becomes like a tit for tat. So she starts telling Scorpio and my nephew Zane's a big dude. He's like 6'4", you know, 350. And she's over there telling him, tell your uncle, Matt Dillon, that this is war. You're going to be at war. So we started going back and forth. So I showed up over there, and I told Scorpion, I said, go get Boudica. Get her. The camp is right there. She's yelling at me. She's like, look, tall man. She's like, I can't come on the property because I got a CTW. So you want to talk to me, you need to bring your big tall ass over here to where I'm at. And I'm like, this is an ambush trail. I'm like, I'm not going to, no, this is not happening. I was like, I am not going to end up the Romans in the Teutoburg Forest and get destroyed. And she's like, you got some people, bring them with you. And I, you know, so there's this narrow path where they can ambush you. I said, we'll meet part way. I said, come to the edge of the property and let's talk. So I went to her. And she told me, she started telling me what she told Scorpio and Zane, that there were cannibals that had killed some of her people and that the city was doing nothing about it. Okay. Now, this could just be the rantings and ravings of a lunatic. But the problem with this is that we've heard this before. And most recently, she told Scorpion that she's seen Bigfoot. We had never brought that up or said anything about it. But she said that she has seen a Bigfoot and that it hangs out with some of these people that she's claiming is a cannibal. Now, I told Scorpio, I said she could just be trying to get us to get the law and us go over there and get rid of that encampment so they could take their people back. I said, but why would she throw that in there? Because none of us, I asked my people, I said, did any of you tell her about PRT? They said, no. I said, okay. But she knows now that we wanted to interview her, so she knew that there was something, right? So maybe she looked up my show. I don't know. But now she's saying that they have a Bigfoot type creature that is hanging around with these feral people. And according to what she's saying, it breeds with them.
Oh.
I kid you not. But that's not the first time I've heard this. I heard this at a commune, a lady that lived in the commune back in the 1970s up in Washington near the border. And she claimed that her and her sisters were subjected to these Bigfoot because there was a crazy Charles Manson type cult guy who allowed these Bigfoot type creatures to take the women out into the woods and do the math. Yeah. But she's like, it was horrific. And she told me, and it wasn't just me, it was 3 people on my team. And we listened to this woman talk about this crazy stuff. And so whenever Boudica started saying all this crazy stuff, she has an actual name, but I'm not going to say it. But anyway,
Boudica's perfect.
Boudica fits. Well, not only that, but she comes out with like shit smeared under her eyes, like she's getting ready to go to war, like
hey,
red.
Paul, man, I'm gonna put shit on your door handles in your car. You better take it easy.
Shade Viking wants you to describe her. He sounds like he's pretty adamant. He wants to know.
Well,
somebody wants a full breakdown.
Shade, I'll give you the break. She's not a real big woman. She's probably built about like Jill. But you know, Jill doesn't smoke crack profusely, so there's that. At least we don't think
just a little.
Okay.
The recreational use
just a little. When you feel kind of bloated, you're like, I feel like I need to lose some weight. She's like, "Woo, looking good and high, woo." You know, but seriously, this woman, she comes out and she's like up to here to me, you know, and she's like got her little stick and she's like, "I'm the boss lady," blah 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 blah. But I offended her because I said, look, if you're such a boss, you know, you're the boss bee, then how did this other tribe drive you over here to our borders? You know, why are you here in the hinterland when you should be over there in the other land? If you're so badass. And she says, well, I don't eat people. And when she did tell me this, and she looked me dead in my eye, my patrol captain, my best friend was there, Anthony was there, we were all standing there, and she's got her, I don't know what her lieutenants, whatever they are, the Mad Max people, and they're there, and we're standing there, and she's telling me this story, and she's like, if you want to make a difference and do something, you could go and do something about those cannibals. They're eating people. Now, I did concede this. I said, this isn't the first time I've heard this, and I told her that. I said, I have heard of this cannibalism going on, and I have some police officers who've kind of on the down low, they won't say it publicly, but they believe that this could be happening. A partially eaten body over behind the other by the wall, which is a different site, which is not nearly as wild now like as it used to be. When a year ago, that we were fighting with these people every day. They were like, watch Game of Thrones, you know, the wall. Yeah, that's what it was. These people were just, I mean, it was the wildlings, just constant. At one point, they were jumping the fence, and my brother was like fighting them off with a stick, like trying to, you know, a baton, basically, getting them off of the wall because they were just so ridiculous. And they could have easily went around, but something had them so afraid that they were jumping the wall because they wanted to get where the light was at.
To siege the tower, you know. Boudica said,
yeah. Don't y'all have pepper spray? It's much more effective than a stick.
No, yeah, dude, that's what I'm telling you. Some of these people can eat that stuff on pizza, man. That doesn't even work no more. They're immune to this shit.
Yeah.
These people are mutants at this point.
Oh my God.
One of them, like he was this big Nordic looking guy that came out of the woods, and he didn't look afraid at all. He just tossed his backpack over, scaled the wall pretty easily. He was about 6'6", and when the guards went toward him, he just said, I'm leaving. And then he ran about 30 yards and then jumped back over the wall at that point and then went up the hill to go to the main road. Why he felt the need to get out of the woods and then go around and cut through the property and risk being arrested, I have no idea.
It's just a breather.
No.
Listen, fellas, I got to run for the night. I got to be up super early, but I will be back with y'all next week if you'll have me.
Yes, and we're going to be on Rumble, so we will set that up and be
Oh, I'm
prepared
ready.
to Rumble.
I am ready. I just wanted to wish everybody a good evening, and I'll see you all next time.
Yeah.
Later.
All right, Rob. So what we end up dealing with is possibility that Bigfoot, or whatever you want to call it, could be actually cohabiting with the homeless people on the edges of this city, because we get Bigfoot reports all the time, but haven't until recently heard of that. Now, I've heard of it in other places like in the Appalachians, but that could be something that's happening on a regular basis, and we don't even know it.
So, Josh, I have two questions. But okay, well, first I want to address because there are so many people we talk to who have habituation and almost like generational Bigfoot encounters on their property, where it's almost like a friendly, like Arla Williams talks about, like she was brought up as knowing that they were the neighbors in the woods, that sometimes you saw them, sometimes you didn't. You just kind of treat them the way you wanted to be treated. And we've had these stories, but in the case for Texas, what you're talking about on the property, it seems like, and I don't know, maybe just because I listened to the show, everything seems amplified in Texas. Like the Bigfoot encounters are wild, the Dogman encounters. You guys got a whole other like level of crazy going on down there. And does that have to do with like ley lines? Does it have to do with like
it's
just
the heat.
history?
It's the heat. It's so hot down here all the time. It drives everybody nuts. It's like Moore said, we don't have the granola munching, tree hugging Bigfoot here in Texas. Mm-hmm. We got these crazy 3-toed monsters.
Yes, and the weird ashen faced ones here in Central Texas. They have this weird, and I still have not figured that out yet. Like a lot of the researchers will say that they encounter these, I don't know, these Bigfoot that have like ash on their face, or they're ashen gray. And I've wondered that, like what is that? What could that possibly be? Is that some sort of like, when I have a friend come on, he's going to come on this coming week. I'm going to get him on. I have to. He's got a lot to talk about. He lived in a place called Elroy, and I had a friend from there who recently had a weird encounter with Bigfoot. He's had 3 now that he's been out there. And so I told my friend Kenneth, I told him, I said, you need to come on the show and talk about what happened to you when you were young. But he's had encounters with ghosts and all kinds of weird stuff out there in Elroy. And the Bigfoot, I think that they can watch people, and they've learned to use ash because they know that it keeps like bugs and stuff off of them. So maybe that's what that is. Or it could just be their skin. I don't know, but they have these horrible, weird-looking faces. They're not these the way that they describe some Sasquatch, like, oh, they're just like big, furry, Harry and the Henderson-looking dudes or whatever. No, these things look like those creatures from that movie Congo or some crap. And hey, so it's weird. You got this weird, I don't know what it is. And we have different types of creatures. But here in Central Texas, especially when you go to East Central Texas, when you start getting toward the gateway to the east, on the other side of like Rockdale, you're getting a lot of weird reports of these creatures having this weird ashen face looking whatever. And it just sounds hard to believe, because I know that people have said that they're afraid of fire. But these things, I think they may be using the ash from a fire to put it on their faces. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? I mean,
I've heard the use of ash in rituals, and for some odd reason, I got to thinking about the Skinwalker legend out of the Midwest, wondering, could this particular Bigfoot be a person who's changing himself to look like a Bigfoot for God knows what reason, a shapeshifter, and the ash is some kind of substance used in the ritual. You've heard of the werewolf belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines. Just to give you an idea how my mind works. My wife is still trying to get used to me.
Somebody said that you noticed the McRib does not specify the meat. I'll talk about it on Rumble. I'll take it a step further. It's a seasonal thing.
Mhm.
It comes out seasonally, and it's one of their best sellers. So why would it only be seasonal if it's one of your best sellers? Doesn't make sense, does it?
Mm.
I wouldn't eat McDonald's if you put a gun to my head. I would.
Is it
I would
anything
let
like
you pull the trigger.
anything like Soylent Green?
Well, they found teeth. They found DNA. Not gonna get. We'll talk about that on Rumble. I'll give you the numbers. It's quite the yeah. It's and then they always try to say, oh, that's all just that's been debunked.
Yeah,
debunked by who? By who? Who's debunked it? Because I could debunk a lot of things. That doesn't make it true.
Most of the fact-checking companies, just pick a name, any name. There's hundreds of them. Just about every one of them is run by the same organization out of Europe. So they're all getting their facts from the same location.
Yeah, they do. And when you know people can debunk until their eyes bleed, it doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it untrue. That just means that their eyes are bleeding. You know, yeah. I could say this: when you start going down the cannibalism rabbit hole, that is the next step, because they already want us to eat bugs. You want me to eat bugs? You go first. You eat the bugs.
That meat that they're making, that meat that they're making out of other things than cows. It's like the ingredients. How can all those chemicals that they're dumping into this product, how can that be cheaper than something that goes moo and eats grass?
Yeah, it's not. And the thing is, you know, when you stop and you look at these people that are doing what they're doing, you get the sense that it's a slow march towards some overarching goal. And people get caught up in this left-right paradigm. I can't stand it. People that post the political, I can't. It's like, dude, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They could put anybody in office. It doesn't matter. And if the person is a good person or a bad person, it's irrelevant, because they're not going to be able to do anything. There's going to be gridlock. I mean, Ross Perot, when he was running, he was like, gridlock, you know, I got these charts, and it doesn't matter, Ross. They're not going to let you do shit anyway. You're just a figurehead. Figure it out. I mean, you know, the last guy tried to, he was, you know, he figured out he was a figurehead. That's why he was so angry. And the problem was that he was doing good for the economy, but he wouldn't stay the hell off of Twitter, you know, which president doesn't need to be tweeting. Just do your job. He was doing great. The economy was doing great. But then
the trouble was the lame street media was ignoring anything he said or did. So somebody had to talk about it.
This guy, he poops himself in front of the Pope. It's just like, dude, I can't stand this circus anymore. And so, you know, if you actually could have somebody come out and be honest about it, they would kill them. JFK. I mean, they murdered JFK, and they did it because he was saying things that they didn't like.
Well, he wanted NASA and CIA to release the records to the Soviets on flying saucers.
Dude, there was a lot of things he was trying to do. I mean, I'm going to talk about that on Rumble too, and I can get into the whole feds and how it was created and how the Illuminati infiltrated it, and when they infiltrated it. And when you see what's let's put some extra EDs on everything. Yeah. So when you see that they did what they did, there were organizations that were like, there's an organization called the Essene, and they were actually the assassin. That's what they were. They came from a part of Iran, the Persian Empire. The place where they came from, though, no longer exists, but it was from a place called we would butcher this word, Abyssinian Empire, that was an offshoot of the Akkadians, which is not Akkadians, the Arcadians, two different things. And they were originally of Hittite blood, and they were used as assassins They had been trained for a long time, and they were basically a mixture of Boeotian Greek and Tamil Indian. Very interesting that they're so far apart, but yet if you look at the port of Gujarat, it was founded by Bactrian Greeks. And to this day, they still claim that Greek heritage. And so they adopted the way of fighting, the hoplite, way of fighting. So that when Alexander arrived in the Indus Valley and was pushing into India, he fought Indians who were actually speared up and armored up like his people. And he was like, who the hell taught these people this? Well, they had been there for hundreds and hundreds of years before that. So you had this kind of Hellenistic whatever that was already there in place that was giving them this culture. Or did it evolve separately, just the same, like, a Tasmanian tiger looks like a canine, but it's not, but it evolved separately from a canine, if you believe that, or adaptation, as some people like to call it, because they don't like using the word evolution, whatever. The point is, these people they mirrored one another. And so the Essenes, the assassins, they said, we're the muscle. We're doing all your dirty work. Why would we listen to the caliphate when we could do our own thing? Kind of like the cartel. They were, they had these military guys down there in Nuevo Laredo, and they were like, you're making billions of dollars off of drugs, but yet we're your muscle. What happens if we just take it? What are you going to do? You're going to go to war with us? Because you're going to have to hire some other mercenaries. And mercenaries are not known for their loyalty. They're loyal to gold, right? And if you don't have it, then you don't get it, right? So what ends up happening is you have this mercenary group that becomes, they're the ones in charge, and they tell the caliphate to go eat crap. And he says, well, I'm going to teach you a lesson. No, they taught him a lesson. And then they hook up with another group. Like, I think you might have been the one that said this, Chris. Somebody said it on my show, that one Christian group would join forces with a Muslim group, and they would go, hey, let's go and destroy this
other Muslim group. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what they did was, especially during the First Crusade, there was a Frankish military soldier. I can't remember his name. He was a Templar, like Valentine or Valentine or something. He had a name like that. There's some kind of holiday or something. But anyway, he joined forces with the Essenes, the Abyssinians. And when they took they took Tyre, when they sacked it, and they used the same tunnel that Alexander had dug underneath the city, they thought, we're impenetrable. Well, maybe you should have walled off that tunnel a little better, because you didn't, a little Chinese dynamite, So then they're in the city and they're sacking it. That becomes the first stronghold of a group called the Knights Templar. Mm-hmm. The Templars end up becoming best friends with the Assassins. Now they even got a video game about it called Assassin's Creed. It was a marriage between a Muslim group, but really they were actually a early form of Sikh. They weren't really Muslims. They were just pretending. They were kind of like crypto Muslims, because Muslims that are true Muslims, they have this fervor in their religion. These people were like, look, we'll put aside our religion for money. We'll do whatever we need to do. We'll be with you. We'll roll with you. We'll fight whoever as long as we get paid, because it's all about getting paid, baby. That's all they wanted. And these Templars were like, you know what? We like your style. Who gives a crap about this holiness and all this other stuff and the Jerusalem? They don't care. They're just like, are we getting paid? So then Richard the Lionheart enters and he says, look, you're going to fight for king and country. And they're like, why do you have gold-plated armor? The rest of us are just kind of goofing around over here. We're getting hit by Syrian arrows, and you're over here like, yes, you will fight for king and country, for Europe, and blah, blah, blah. The truth is, money talks, dude. Get off your horse and you go fight. Mm-hmm. Right? Descendant of Charlemagne. Nobody gives a shit about you. So what ends up happening, they finally get two guys who are able to get, Saladin and Richard, and they're able to galvanize the armies and say, okay, we're all together now. We're all a big collective army, because before that you just had waves of infidels on both sides, right? Now you have these solid armies that go to war, and eventually it was decided, and it was a decisive, and of course the Christians had to travel there. Italy being the quickest route. They were always going through Italy of the boot, right? That is where the assassins set up shop, was in Sicily. And we all know that the La Cosa Nostra is an offshoot, well, we should, of that original group of assassins. And so what ended up happening, there was a base there that was set up by the Knights Templar. And so you checked in with them and they gave you a sword and shield and said, go and fight and defend Jesus. And then you go to the Holy Land, but you got to remember, you're outnumbered 1,000 to 1 at any given time because the Levant, they're from the Levant. That is their turf. So you're fighting on their turf. So the inevitable happens. The Muslims take Jerusalem. The assassins don't go away. They become stronger, but the Templars keep doing business with them. And the Templars become their assassins. And ultimately, the Templars betrayed them one day because they got fat and lazy. The Abyssinians said, hey, we're powerful. And the Templars stuck the knife in the back. And then they took everything. And then they even caused division amongst, because they had their spies, amongst all the different types of Arab. Even if you had a slightly different language you spoke, I mean, you're not connected because money talks. So at one time, it is estimated that the Templars had like a third of the world's income. So, of course, Friday the 13th comes. Years later, we fast forward. This French king says, I owe these dudes $1 bazillion. Why is my fat ass having to pay them? They're satanic. Kill them. And so the French army's like, okay, we'll do that. We'll go kill them because you owe them money. And basically, we'll pretend like they're satanic and they're doing these bad things. Really, their big sin and crime was usury, of course, being disloyal. But they did what they did. But that offshoot of that, a splinter group of that, became known as the Illuminati. And then the Illuminati became the Trilateral Commission, and then there were these other types of groups that grew up and became the Black Cube Society, the Hellfire Club, and it just went on and on and on and on. And so now you come up to the modern day, and what we have is a loose confederation of groups, each consisting of hundreds of members, not all knowing, you know, in the pyramid scheme of things, they don't all know. The lower level doesn't really know what the next tier knows, and the next tier doesn't know what the next tier knows. But at the top, supposedly, you have the king of the world. And he's the guy that literally Jim Morrison claims he was, the Lizard King.
I don't think Jim Morrison was the king, though. He
claims he was. He would be possessed when he would sing. Come on, come on, come on, touch me, babe.
He wasn't really a singer. He was a poet.
Yeah, he was.
But he was able to put words out musically. So,
what was touching him, you know, can't you see that I am not afraid? What was that promise that I made to the devil?
You think he actually did die? Or you think he
he died. He died, but the thing is, the 27 Club means something because there is a group, and I don't even want to say their names, but it's all based on numerology. 2 + 7 = 9. Do the math. It starts with the order of. Go look it up. I want to say it because they are not to be messed with. They are a very and there is another group that's an offshoot of them too, the Temple of Set. And the Temple of Set goes back even before the Assassins. It goes back even before the Templars. It goes back to the time of the Romans. See, they believed in the Eye of Horus, but only as it suited them. And then they murdered those people from that sect, and they took it over, and they began to worship the bad guy. But the weird thing is the children of Israel also believed in this donkey-headed being the bad guy. But some of them actually ended up worshiping him. You have a familial thing there with Baal, Moloch, Remphan. And when you look at the names of all these people, they are all in it together. They're all the same. Baphomet is actually a French spelling. It's actually, that would be the grandson of Beelzebub. It sounds crazy, but when you do the deep dives on it, you start to realize this is a lineage. Satan is a name. It's a title. It's the Shaitan. or the Hasachatan, that as Joe Breezy talks about it. Because if you go back and you look at the ancient Hebrew text, you will see who these people are. And I say people because at one time they walked around the earth with earthly feet. When they said in that movie, Bram Stoker, he says, when Keanu Reeves, he says, I dwell here where the devil and his children still walk the earth with earthly feet. They've always walked the earth with earthly feet. When the Elohim came down and asked the Shaitan where they were, they said, we've been walking to and fro upon and within the earth. Why would they need to specify within the earth? Why does it say in Revelations? Why does Jesus need to tell us that those will be judged upon and within the earth? It's very specific.
Corey Cole wants to know what Jill's second question was. No, what? Yeah, what's your second question?
Oh, well, it came and went.
Can't
what
remember.
were we talking about? We're talking about. I brought up the habituation. What was it? And then I got sidetracked because I was like, "What's going on in Texas?"
The ash-faced Bigfoot.
Oh, I mean, so one of the things that we've heard from people, different regions, different characteristics and whatnot. So I wonder if just because Texas is like so varied, maybe in landscape and like the geography, it's just, they're just making do with what they have. I don't know, maybe like you said, the heat, maybe it has to do with like hair coverage. I've never sat down with one, so I don't know. And that's here's what I have learned. And I can say this because, like I said, it's like the more I hear, the more I learn, the more questions I have, and I realize I'm probably further away from the answer than when I first started out. Because I will admit I don't have all the answers. I don't think anyone does. We all have some hunches. We have some ideas that resonate and feel right. I don't know where I was going with that. I just completely lost myself.
I can say this. I think a lot of, because Texas is built on a large cave system. It's much like Kentucky. And I've had that conversation once again with Barton. We've talked extensively about the cave systems. And in fact, It was me and him on the phone one day with another of our people, and we were just talking about the caves. It was Josh Tanoki who was on the phone. But we were talking, and we were trying to figure out why there were so many encounters in Texas and Kentucky and whatever. I'm firmly convinced that the inner earth is a very big part of this. And of course, if you listen to the show, you probably already know that I'm headed in that direction, because there are so many different encounters that happen around these cave systems, where they are, and why people go missing so often around these cave systems. And I believe that the answers are there. I don't think that Bigfoot's grabbing everybody. I don't think that aliens are grabbing everybody. I think it's all of the above. I think we need to and I'm going to say this, folks, and it may piss some people off, okay? But we need to come to the realization that we are not who we think we are. We are not at the top of the food chain. When you go outside of your house, that's not the zoo. Well, it could be a zoo if you live in one with the city, but I mean, you go out into the woods. The zoo, the woods is not the zoo. You're not safe from whatever's out there, and people need to come to the realization and put it in your freaking brains that there is a world below your feet, and these things have access to it, and we don't. And not only that, but what you were talking about, how the quantum Bigfoot, right? Like they can do things that we can't unless you're out of your body. You need to have the full armor of God. That's what I believe. And you need to have a spiritual protection. This is one of them right here. This goes back all the way back to the Templars. Look, you need to understand something. Everybody, we are not safe here. And most planets, and I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound cuckoo bananas for those who don't understand what I'm about to say, they don't live on the surface. Mm-hmm. They don't. They live in the earth. They live within the earth. And that's why Jesus says those will be judged within the earth. And to answer your question to somebody, a werewolf, 5674, whatever your handle is, I don't know if he's listening tonight, but he sent me an email and he wanted me to answer the question about Genesis 1:26. Now I'll say this. God absolutely says it. I'm going to read it right here so you can know. I'm going to read it to you what it says about the creation, because there's a lot of confusion there, and people are saying that, okay, get rid of that. That was about Star Wars, not what we're talking about. Used to be a fan until they destroyed it. So here we go. I will read this to you. The New International Version says it like this. This is the New International Version. It says, Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. Right? All right. So you go into the different versions of this. There's a bunch of different versions of this. That's one version. Okay. The King James Version, and there's this right here. We'll do it. God says, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and then the cattle, and the blah, the blah, the blah, the blah. Okay. So each one of these is a different version, but it's the same thing. God says it over and over again. The New Living Translation says, God said, let us make human beings in our image to be like us, and they will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock in the wild, and blah, 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 blah. The English Standard Version, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion, blah, 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 blah. The Berean Standard Bible, same thing. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. It says it over and over and over and over again. Werewolf, you said that it says that God says in my image, not in our image or whatever. No, that's not correct. It says it right here. He says it that in our image. Now, it depends on what you believe. Somebody can argue that people wrote that to make it that their God that they believe in created everything and created us and created whatever. Or you can say that another God, a different being that's not the God of the Old Testament is not necessarily the God that Jesus talks about. That's a very, that is what he said. But it's all up to man and their interpretation of what they say. But the bottom line is this: God is talking to people or beings or angels or whatever, and he's saying, let's make man in our image. That God that they are talking about, the God of the Old Testament, which, if you break it down and you go back to its earliest form, and I'm talking before, Septuagint, all this other, what I'm talking about is the early form. You will find in those ancient texts that get confiscated every time someone finds them, they're in two places. They're in Jerusalem under the temple, and they're in the Vatican. That's the truth. All right? And I'm going to tell you right now, and then there's a third place, Geneva, Switzerland. You think I'm joking, folks. The truth. That's the seat of Satan, the seat of the Hasatan. I'm going to tell you right now, what ends up happening is that people get confused about, because there's so much editing and rewriting and redacting to make it all fit like there's this one God. But the children of Israel were not monotheistic. They didn't become monotheistic until they were exposed to what? Zoroastrianism, which was the state religion of what country? Persia, which is now Iran. Really and truly, Persia is not Iran, and the Ottomans were not Turkish, because the Ottoman Empire encompassed bunches of countries they're now defunct. It's now defunct. It's just Turkey, but they were at the heart of it. Just like Russia is not the Soviet Union. Russia was a part of the Soviet Union. It was the heart of it, right? They were the controlling arm. Just like Persia. Persia was the 100-nation empire, right? They had over 100 nations that they could call upon as vassal states, all answering to, their whatever, Persepolis, their capital. And when you look at the way that they did things, they were very powerful, very potent. They didn't do the city-state thing that everything always breaks down to your city, region, whatever. Everybody became assimilated into the Persian Empire under Cyrus. It was a state law that you had to accept the state religion. His was Zoroastrian. Some other rulers had changed the laws to have multiple gods, to be polytheistic, a god for every season, because because of the absorbing and very quickly absorbing, which growth too fast is not a good thing. It always screws things up. The soup gets watered down. What happened is they absorbed too many pagans, and the Zoroastrian kind of took a back seat. So to appease the pagans, they had to give them their holidays. So what they ended up with is much like the Romans later on, over 200 days out of 365, whatever, were given over to holidays. So Persepolis had to be, we have to have a holiday because the Phrygians, have this holiday. The Scythians have this holiday, it was ridiculous. So what ends up happening, you have this like multicultural, they got too far out there, which is what happens. And when the Greeks came calling, when Alexander came, the army that he marched to the Granicus or Arbela, both millions of people. Alexander had like altogether 56,000 maybe, if you took everybody together. And they utterly defeated them again and again and again, because they were all with one single-minded purpose, one religion, one belief, one everything, uniform. Persians were all over the place. You had these tribesmen over here. Look at the 300, the movie, The 300. They did a very good job of depicting that. They showed like these people with paint and gray crap all over their heads, and they came out and tried to fight, and the Spartans beat their ass. And they threw out some other fools, and the Spartans beat their ass. And then they had a rhino come out, and it's like, finally they were betrayed, and then the immortals came in and they killed them from behind or whatever, and then they were done in, which is kind of what happened. That's the truth, the Thermopylae. But when Alexander, by the time the lessons had been learned from these battles, he was ready to go. So the state religion literally had been so watered down, but it had been an indoctrination of the children of Israel that were living there. They did not have a written language before that. They didn't, because the Hebron, the people that were living in Egypt, it's estimated that there were over 110 different types of religions all bound together in one group of people that called themselves Hebrew. Because the word Hebron meant outsider or outlaw or immigrant, it's kind of a derogatory term, like a violent immigrant outsider. You can't trust them. They're bad. They're not good. Be careful with them, whatever. So they end up infiltrating every facet of the Egyptian society, looking at it from the Egyptians' point of view. And they said, we got to get rid of these people. Now, the story that was written literally 1,200 years later was, our people were in bondage and God killed all of their firstborn people for us because they were all bad and we were the good guys. And the Egyptians were just meanie heads. And this is what it says. This is the word of God. Right? Now, if you really believe that, the Egyptians can tell you a different story. We let them come here from the land of Canaan. They were Canaanites from 110 different places. And we gave them jobs. We gave them this. We gave them that. And we gave them too much. And they took over entire sections of our city. There was killings and all kinds of things. You know why we know this? Because the Romans were told this by the Egyptians. This is their story and version. And they said, you must kick out the people of Palestine. See, that's another thing, and it's an incendiary thing people don't like. They're like, it's called Israel, not Palestine. I'm not going to get into an argument about it. I have friends on both sides of that argument. I'm not going to take a stand one way or the other right now. I'm going to tell you right now, it's been called Palestine since before the Romans. So that is bullshit, okay? When they say that it wasn't, that was the only region of the Levant that kept the name. Jordan didn't exist. Jordan is the Jordan River. Syria was another one. That's the only one. Syria. Lebanon wasn't even Lebanese. They were the not the Chaldeans. Oh God, I got the tip of my tongue here. Phoenicians. It was called Phoenicia, and then it was called Southern, or it was called Eastern Syria, or Western Syria. So you had Western Syria, you had Syria proper, and then above that and to the left you had Assyria. So you had all these different places. So after the British took it and partitioned it off into different pieces, Phoenicia was no longer Phoenicia. It was Lebanon, officially called Lebanon. And it wasn't just a name from a family, which is what that was, which was a name from the Abyssinians, really, actually. And so when you look at this map, you're going like, okay, But here is Palestine. The Romans, since before the Romans had come and conquered it, it was called Palestine. They chose the name Israel because they knew that would galvanize people to be on their side, and it would be a biblical prophecy, which they didn't believe in. They do not believe in that. That's a Christian belief. I will curse those that curse you and bless those that bless you, Israel. Which the name Israel actually means he who wrestles with God. And people don't know any of this, and they read the Bible, which is that big, and they think that book has all the answers to the universe. It has a lot of answers, but there's a lot more that needs to be learned. That's the problem. And if you go to the Epic of Gilgamesh, it talks about Bigfoot in there. It does. It talks about him. I mean, there has been a cleansing and a whitewashing of our history, and we have been put upon to ignore the facts. And don't look at that. The man behind the curtain. Don't do it. Because if you open the curtain, oh, it's just a guy standing there pretending to be a wizard. That's the all-powerful Oz right there. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a being that is God, that is the universal mind, that is the Father of Christ, who sent Christ to pull us out of this time of tribulation, this time that is the suffering, the time of sorrows, the Kali Yuga, as they call it in India. This is where we're headed. On this ball of rock spinning through space, if you believe that, or this flat piece of paper that we're all living on that has all this stuff underneath it. Who knows? Who knows? We don't know. All we know is we can theorize and we can think about it. But I know this: whether the Earth is round, flat, oblong, doesn't matter. Chewed up piece of bubble gum. Underneath us is an entire world, and I promise you, with everything I'm sitting here telling you, with everything, and one day we're going to know the truth. And you mark my words, that is where these beings come from. They come from these cave systems. And if you're living amongst those cave systems, take heed to what I tell you, because it might save your life. And like, Lost Boys, it could save your life. Seriously, it could save your life, because you're walking and hiking through these places. And it looks like magic, right? They just pop up out of nowhere. No, they come from somewhere. And so be careful when you're out there. And you too, Jill. I know you and Brett, you go out and you do what you do and you do the videos and all that. Be careful, because you never know what you're going to run into.
It's the things that I can't see that I'm worried about. And I'm not talking about just Bigfoot camouflage. I mean, the things that are cloaked, the things that are the mysteries. I mean, even in the title of the show, talking about, I'm reading Werewolves from Space. It's like, let's talk about that. Okay, so there's the people who say that, like, I'm just going to kind of group it together, dogman, werewolf. I know there's a difference, but
there isn't a difference to me. I haven't seen a difference. I don't know.
I'm just going to be kind of like blanket here, but like, for the people who say, oh, they are a primal organic creature from this earth, and for those, and then you hear about the people who are saying, no, they're government assets, they've been manipulated and created, and then you have this whole other, like, the space element, if there's been like DNA tampering or whatnot. It's like, where, at least with Bigfoot, I feel like I don't know, maybe I'm just more familiar with being able to wrap my head around that. But like, especially with Dogman, when you get into like the government connection, and then the people who claim they have these like warm fuzzy interactions, where do you put all that? How do you make sense of it?
It could be there's more than one creature that these folks are dealing with that looks like a 7-foot tall hair covered creature. You've got the tree hugger granola munchers out in California that sit there and sing Kumbaya out in the woods, and all the hippies go out and that's my impression of California. I've only been there twice, and once it was in the Army.
I've been there a lot.
Then you've got something that has seen these interactions with people. Oh, these folks like to interact with Bigfoot. So I'm going to make myself look like a Bigfoot. And when these folks come out into the woods to hug the trees with me, I'll pounce and eat them. Just a theory. I actually got this idea from a guy who goes by the initials of RPG. And I'm not even too sure who he was. He was being interviewed on another podcast, and he'd said something. Of course, he left out the tree hugging and the granola munching. But his idea was that there is something that is mimicking these other creatures that is using our crazy actions in the woods against us. Now, I've seen some people out in the woods. It's like, you're not even carrying a sharp knife. You know what? Don't you know there are things out here, human and animal, that look at you as a quick meal? Some people just, they don't belong in the woods. But these creatures have discovered that, hey, fast food. I don't know. It's just a theory that I've come up with over the years. And there's a few other people that agree with me on it. But the warm, fuzzy Bigfoot maybe there's a few out there. But when you see this 7-foot tall, hair-covered creature standing out in the woods looking at you, which is it? Is it the tree hugger, or is this the thing that's going to kill you and eat you? It's like the aliens. We don't know. I don't believe in the Space Brothers. That just doesn't ring true with me.
Neither.
I think it's some kind of a ploy on their part. Way back in the early days of Contact, before they were called abductees, the contactees used to always come out with this, oh, I talked to my space brothers, and they said you people of Earth have to stop building these nuclear weapons. And if you don't stop, they are going to do something about it. That was in the 50s. Since then, we have built thousands of nuclear weapons, and I haven't seen a single alien show up to do anything about it, except, shut down a few nuclear bases, but then they got them running again. But I don't think that space brother thing about they're here to keep us from killing ourselves rings true. I think they didn't want us having nuclear weapons because they were afraid of them. But I haven't talked to a whole lot of aliens that I know of, so I don't have any grounds for what I believe. It's just my brain working the way it does, which is scary.
Well, do you think it's possible that they are already, they're already here, they're already amongst us? So
they've been here for thousands of years.
Yeah.
The moon is I think they said it's a billion or several million years older than
the Earth.
Yeah.
It also is rusting.
The dust on the surface of the moon is not ground up moon rocks. The dust is something other than the rocks. So how is it you can have this orb that is made of moon rocks and it's made of moon dust, but neither of them are the same? When they ejected Apollo 14 into the surface of the moon to use some seismic equipment to study the density of the surface, the moon rung like a bell for over an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the boys in the white lab coats come rushing out and they say, oh, that's because of the density of the core. You know how a bowling ball will ring when you drop it on the ground. I guess there are some people out there that swallowed that one, but
well, they swallow the idea that we actually went there the first time and that they called them on a landline. They're like, "Hey, we're on the..."
Well,
and it was in the 60s, and you're going like, "Dude," and everybody's like, "We landed on the moon." And I'm like, "Okay, Jim Carrey."
I saw it on TV. I wasn't that impressed because I'd already seen Captain Kirk beaming down. Transporting down onto planets all over the universe. And to me,
Captain Kirk fought lizards too.
Yeah, Captain Kirk was a heck of a lot better than Neil Armstrong. Well, but that was my.
I think they should have sent him because Stanley Kubrick did the film, really.
Yeah.
So he should have been like. They should have had him play like Buzz Aldrin or one of them, Neil Armstrong.
In my mind, when I picture this Apollo 14 hitting the surface of the moon ringing like a bell, I've got this image in my mind of all these aliens going, as the sound passes through the.
They're inside like the bells.
Yeah.
What they should have done was had
Quasimodo to
the big overactor there. I shouldn't say that because I was actually invited to be on the Unexplained, but I didn't do it. But I like him. But I mean, he's what we're gonna find out.
He's Captain Kirk, no matter what he does, no matter how he behaves today on whichever show, because he's had like a couple hundred TV shows now, but he will always be Captain Kirk, no matter what. And when I was young, he was the man. So it's kind of like Art Bell. Art Bell is still the man, even though he's been dead for a while. So yeah, aliens have been here. The guys in the white lab coats come out and say they can't get here from there because it's so far, and a rocket traveling at so many thousand miles an hour can't possibly get here in thousands of. Who said they're commuting? I think they came thousands of years ago. They got here. They got this great big moon base, literally, and that's one of the places they hang out. So
if William Shatner would have played the part of the astronaut, how would it have gone? Here's what I think would have happened.
He would have sounded a lot better.
Would he? Because he might have just overacted and been like, I'm on the surface of the moon.
Yes.
It's dark here. I am touching rocks. And they're like radioing to him, try to act normal. I am acting normal.
Yeah.
I'm on the moon.
Would they use the music? Would they be playing the music in the background?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. The menagerie. They play the menagerie. And then he would do the one small stat for me. One giant leap for, I don't know the script. You guys, you're here on the moon with me. Just totally screw that up. He would start ad-libbing, and I think it would have been like a complete disaster. And the Russians would have been sitting there going like, I told you, comrade, they're lying. They did not go to the moon. It's no real. Drink more vodka. Nothing to worry. These guys are a big joke, a clown world.
The U.S. did not win the space race.
Mm-mm.
And the Russians did not lose the space race. I call the Soviet Union the Russians. It's back when I was younger.
Same thing. I mean, but it's not the same thing, but it is kind of.
Our Nazi scientists were communicating with the Soviet Nazi scientists. They were writing back and forth all the time. There was a bar out at White Sands where all the Nazi scientists hung out. And right above the bar was a great big swastika. And von Braun and all these other NASA scientists were in there, probably saluting Hitler. After all, he was an SS colonel. So the Nazis won the space race. That's my take on it.
Yeah, they did. And not only that, but if you look at economically, especially in the 80s, the Germans and the Japanese dominated the car market. Everybody knows that that's the second biggest purchase that you're going to make in your life. And if you look at steel now, it's still the best steel still comes from Germany and Japan. Everything they do is top notch. And it's weird too, because I'm going to get into this. I'm going to say it, but their IQ, the Japanese IQ, is like 10 points higher than the average Asian. The German IQ prior to World War II was actually like 12 points higher than the average European. So you had the two smartest groups of people basically saying, why shouldn't we just have control? Because we need to lead everybody into this brave new world. The problem was that you were, following dictatorships. But when you stop and look at the alternative at that time, communism was a big problem. And it was a big problem going back way before World War II ever even was thought of. It was like during World War I, a virus showed up in Russia called communism. And that virus spread like a wildfire. And with the Germans defeating the Russians in World War I, the Russians decided they didn't want to fight anymore. They wanted to go back home and fight each other. So the Red Russians fought the White Russians, and they went back and forth. And of course, everybody knows what happened. The Red Russians won. The aristocracy of the what do you call
Romanovs.
them? The Romanovs. Thank you. Oh my God. So I'm very tired. I've only had 3 hours of sleep, folks. The Romanovs, they took their Cossack guards and they went into exile in France and in Britain and other countries, and the communists followed them there to try to wipe them out. What's important about that, though, is you have two galvanizing political systems. People nowadays are fed bullshit, and I'm going to talk about that on Rumble, because fascism is not communism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're two totally different things. Really, they really are. And people are like, they're both socialists. Yeah, but one is a national socialism, which is about your own country and whatever the hell. And then you have communism. But like Hitler himself said, he said, National Socialism is not for export. Communism is for export. Communism's goal was for the whole world to be communist. The German goal at that time was to take over the continent of Europe. I don't believe, and I never will, that their goal was to take over Asia and America and all that. And in fact, many times they were trying to get the British to listen to them and tell them, look, just give us the continent of Europe. That's all we're asking for. We just want to have total control of people's lives in Europe. That's it. And you're being completely unreasonable. But the British were being unreasonable in one way. They should have been waging war with the Russians too. And I think that what Churchill, which he's a piece of crap, he was only fighting that war to make up for what happened in Gallipoli. That's it. That's all he was doing. A bunch of people died because of his bullshit. He was a rich, spoiled kid. He was always a little fat, tubby boy. He was weak and always sickly. And so he got his war. That's what he wanted. And then afterwards he lamented, hey, we slaughtered the wrong pig. Well, you're a pig. So anyways, bottom line, the guy was not a good guy. He led everybody into a war that should not have been fought because he kept squeezing the noose around Germany and giving them an excuse to do what they did. And the bottom line is Hitler's big speech that galvanized everybody was this. He said, he used Ukraine as an example. He said the country of Ukraine could be the breadbasket of not only Europe, but Europe and part of Asia. But everybody's starving to death, which they were, the Holodomor, because of communism. So is that what you want here in this country? Do you want that? Do you want everyone to starve to death? Or do you want to do what I'm saying we do, and we start rearming and we get ourselves back up to where we need to be, which automatically was going to be a war because they were not supposed to rearm. And they did. And then it became a war. And there was a lot of other things that led to it, but there has been a lot of whitewashing and a lot of redacting and to make a narrative that fits what they want.
At the end of World War II, a particular car manufacturer, it starts with an F, went to Congress and handed out a bag full of money to buy the rights to tell the United States what happened in World War II.
Yeah.
Why did he do that? Well, I know why, but I don't want to get the show kicked off.
Yeah, please don't, because we'll do it on Rumble. I'll talk about what happened, because what happened, and then JFK's dad, who was, let's be honest, he was an IRA member. He was in the IRA, and the IRA went cuckoo bananas on Britain, doing what they called freedom fighting, what the British would call terrorism, and in total support of Germany, because that was their job. Also, half of France, after being abandoned on the beach at Dunkirk, said, screw you. They turned and they joined the Germans. And in fact, during Operation Torch, when they landed in North Africa, the Vichy regime French, predominantly Moroccan, Libyan, and Tunisian soldiers, really inflicted way more casualties on the Americans than the Americans got inflicted by the Germans in Normandy. And that's something people don't know. And they also don't know that during the Desert Fox, Rommel's, reign of terror, as Churchill called it, What else matters but stopping Rommel? What really mattered was that you should have cared more about life and about people and not, did all the horrible things you did later, like committing genocide and things like that. But what's crazy is that the Desert Fox, he had the reason they couldn't stop him, they outnumbered him 200-1, was because the locals supported the Germans. And there are actually pictures of Africans wearing German uniforms with swastikas on them, which kind of flies in the face of the whole, they hated everybody and they were racist bigots. That's kind of weird because they had like tons of these Arabic and black and Muslim Balkan soldiers too, that wore the SS uniforms, that wore all this insignia, which kind of doesn't make sense to me. Now, the guy he wrote a book, he was the guy from BET. He owned the BET network. He's got a French name. And his book is called Destined to Witness or something like that. So the whole time during the war, he was never molested by anybody. Nobody came and took his family or did anything to him. He lived in this no man's land between France and Germany, where there was a population of Africans there, and nobody did anything to them. The Germans never came and rounded them up. They never put them in camps. He just says he witnessed all these things or whatever, but nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happens to him. I mean, he's alive, or he was. He created BET. And you're going like, this doesn't make any sense at all. All these things that they say. Why did Japan attack us unprovoked? Unprovoked. And why did Russia not want to participate in the bombing of Dresden? These and other questions should be answered because it's all bullshit. I'm telling you, history is written by the winners, and they change everything around. They twist everything around. I'm not saying these were good guys, but what I'm saying is there were two bad guys fighting, not just one. Now, after the end of the war, the Soviet Union held the threat of nuclear holocaust over our heads for freaking decades, man. I remember as a kid having to think, I would go to bed at night thinking we were going to get bombed and turned into dust and ash.
Duck and cover when I was in
Duck
school.
and cover, yeah. It's not going to do nothing. You're just going to be incinerated. And yet we're told, this is the appropriate response, to let's just like appease them and do whatever. No, dude, no. Patton had the right idea. When we were done kicking the Nazis' ass, we should have rearmed them and turned them around and said, finish what you started. We'll back you up. And thrown them right back into the infernal cauldron and went right back into Stalingrad and destroyed Stalingrad, which was really the de facto capital because ever since Stalin had it, Volgograd was actually, that was where it was at. That was where the war was being fought. So when you look at these strategic spots, Leningrad, Stalingrad, that's where the war was won and lost. What the United States would have benefited greatly if they would have stopped supplying the Russians a year before the war ended and then let the Germans have leeway. Then after they were pushed back, let them be pushed back to the Rhine. Get them that far back, and then you turn and you do an offensive, helping the Germans to defeat the Russians because at that point the Germans couldn't do anything. At that point they were going to be done. So you lay down on them. You tell them this is the rule. We finish what you started over here. Then you surrender unconditionally. And if you don't, then you're executed. That's it, period. That's how you would have handled that situation. I don't know why we didn't. Well, I know why we didn't. I do, but I'm not going to say it. But the bottom line is this. History is not what you think it is. There's a whole lot of stuff out there that I could say that I'm not going to say on YouTube, but that is the truth. And everybody wants you to be quiet and not say anything. You're not supposed to talk about religion. You're not supposed to talk about politics. You damn sure not supposed to talk about race and all these other things. But guess what? Everything is connected. Everything is connected. So we pretend every day in our lives that things are not the way they are. But that pretending is what has led us down the road that we're on. Because we're not allowed to speak openly and just tell the truth. And the worst thing you can do is listen to the mainstream media. And I'm not getting political. I'm just being honest. They do not tell the truth. They lie. You could get 50 different news stations from all the different major networks, and every one of them will be parodying the same thing, the same exact thing. And then they want to say things like trust the science. Why don't you trust the science? The science was telling you exactly what it told you, and you ignored it. You want us to trust lies. Just the truth. And then we're supposed to believe that all these things happen. These things happen just magically, and it's just we're supposed to just believe it. I mean, like, look at what happened with Puffin Poof Daddy, whatever his name is. That piece of crap. What happened with that guy? Huh? I've been saying this since you shot my boy Tupac. I've been saying this, that he's a piece of crap. I've been screaming it. I said he's dirty. Suge was in on it. I mean, it was like everybody's like, wow, I don't know, man, with East Coast, West Coast thing. Bullshit. The guy killed him. He killed him. And in fact, I take it a step further. I think he killed Notorious Big. And why am I talking about this? Because that's the story, the narrative that they spin is so ridiculous. You know? Oh, they retaliated and they killed Notorious B.I.G. No, they didn't. He did it. And now all of a sudden, now they're like, no, we're looking into him. 30 years later, after he's murdered people in cold blood, 30 years later, after he's had how many children this happened, whatever. Now, you know what? Being the constabulary that we are, I think it's time we do something about this murdering child molester. Yeah, we should have done something a long time ago. We didn't. Nobody did anything. Nobody cared. Nobody did anything. And in fact, the hitman that did it for Combs, it was like walking around telling people for years that he did it. He wasn't even hiding the shit. He was like, yeah, I shot that fool. Like, I mean, this is not even like, I mean, like people there's been rumors about this forever. And that Suge Knight was in on it. You're going to fill that car full of holes, but you're not going to hit him. Or he gets hit somewhere, you know, like just graze me, fool, you know. This is the kind of crap that we swallow whole. And then we believe it. And then we go around talking about it's a conspiracy theory. You're a conspiracy theorist. I like that meme that says the dots aren't connecting correctly theorist, and we need to do something about it. Because if you believe this garbage, like everybody says that this thing about McDonald's is bullshit. No, it's not. No, it's not. They've found human DNA over 30 times. I mean, or in 30 different cities. Are you kidding me? How about the first time that somebody calls you a horse? You go, that's crazy. The second time somebody tells you that, you're kind of going like, oh, do I look like a horse? The third time somebody tells you, why don't you go buy a saddle? Because that's what you are. Or buy a mirror that works. Because that's the problem, is that everybody believes this nonsense that they tell you. And these people, they do these bad, horrible things in plain view. They kill people. They get body counts up into the 50s and they say, oh, they suicided themselves. So everybody that knows you goes out and shoots themselves in the back of the head twice because they have a lot of depression, you know? And I'm talking about a particular political thing there. Who are these? That's what they do. They do this and then everybody's all surprised. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they would even say that. I'm going to vote for that person. I'm a virtue signaler. No, you're just stupid. You're a retard. Really, you are. I mean, you have the retardation. If you believe that, I mean, you know, there's a problem here in this country. And I'm telling you, man, it's happening to the whole world. There's a song by it's a German band. What's it called? We All Live in America. It's by Rammstein. And the lyrics, we all live in America, you know, and he's basically Coca-Cola, Wonderbra. Like, yeah, it's Wonderbra. You know, it's great. It's so awesome. And then he says, I don't speak my mother's tongue. I don't speak why? Because his country was leveled by our country. That's why he doesn't speak his mother's tongue. That's why he is literally not who he was supposed to be. That's why what we've done to the rest of the world. And it could be that we are Mystery Babylon and we're going to be destroyed. And I'm not anti-American because I'm a Texan. We were our own country. And as far as I'm concerned, we still are. Because whether you like it or not, you don't want to hear this, especially you, California, listen to what I'm going to tell you. You're probably not going to like what I'm going to say. Your ass is being propped up by us. Don't tell me about your oil fields because here's your oil fields and here's ours. Wolf Camp could power this whole country for 200 years. The Gulf Shelf could power this whole country for 300 years, and we have both. We have more oil and natural gas than OPEC. That's an exaggeration, but close. And so you're going to tell me that we need you? If you fell in the ocean, it wouldn't matter. We don't need the rest of this country. But guess what? We are roughly the size of France or Germany. So you know what's going to happen if we decide that we don't like the way things are and that we're tired of paying for the rest of the universe, and our tax dollars are going to fund everything that this sick people that run this country. We don't want to be a part of it. Guess what? There's going to be a war, and they're going to come after us, and they're going to utterly and totally obliterate us, and then we're going to be put under the boot hill like those other countries were.
You know, the 49th Armor Division used to be the biggest armor division in the world, in the free world. And it was the Lone Star Division. It was a National Guard unit. And they had more tanks in Texas than they had in the whole United States Army.
We still have the biggest in Fort Hood, but now it's called Fort some other shit.
Yeah, well, they
correct Fort Hood, whatever.
The folks in charge decided that Texas shouldn't have an armored unit anymore. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was why. But yeah, at one time we had the biggest armor unit in the world.
D Truth says hip hop and rap, only music genre where they murder each other. Well, I'll say this about Pac and Eazy-E. Those guys were actually living their lyrics. I don't suggest it. I don't recommend it. But but a lot of people die in the music industry because, get this, in case you didn't know, 27 Club is a real thing. Reason? People are worth more dead than alive.
Mm-hmm.
The music labels, get this, they are all owned by the same people. The same people that own the music labels, they also own every bit of the media. So you're not going to escape it. That's not going to happen. And so while we all fight for crumbs, at one point, Eli Rothschild owned 52% of the world's wealth. Can you imagine that? He was worth 52% of the world's wealth. One guy, his family. And he was just one of 6 families that were really in charge of the whole world. And there are literally 3 corporations that everything feeds into. Blackstone, that's one of them. Why would it be called that? Blackstone. They do these things right in your face. And then they spit in your face. And you know what you do? You go, oh, thank you. That's dew from heaven. Oh, thank you, God. And you worship them. And then they laugh at you, and then they talk and they mock and they say, we own you. We own your country. We have you by the balls, and you don't do nothing about it, and you never will. And they're a tiny little speck of people. There's nothing. There's a minority of nothing. These 1% elite, and everybody's afraid of them. Nobody says anything because guess what? You might get smoked. Something might happen to you. But what is living if you're not going to really live? If you go and you hide in your little hovel, you're literally doing what my little guinea pigs did today when the pig was stomping around to get to their tomatoes, which I was very disappointed in him. But he went into their little guinea pig cage, and I come home and there's this nightmare. They're despite their fierce names, they're not titans. They're just little dudes, and Galactus and Thanos were terrified, and Truffles was over them, and he was eating their tomatoes, and I was very agitated with him. But the bottom line is this: if you choose security and comfort, whatever, you're going to end up like them, because that's what everybody's doing. They're choosing, and they're sticking their head in the sand, and they're not trying to get to the bottom of what's really happening. You think that the things are happening in the national parks, state parks, all this stuff, that they don't know about this? Why do you think that they became national parks and told people, hey, go vacation over there? You're a sacrifice.
Got to feed the Bigfoot. I'm going to have to run. It's way past
man.
bedtime. Way past. Got things I got to do tomorrow. But it's been a interesting show. It always is.
Saturdays are where I cut loose. I don't know, Jill, if you watch Saturdays, but
I said this in the chat. I never am around to watch the actual live shows. I have to binge them later, like at the gym or driving and whatnot. So they all just, I don't know. I do watch them, but not live.
Yeah. Yeah, and William Bedard says the war had more to it. Yeah, I can't tell you every. I could sit here for hours, William, and tell you. I'll let you run. I'll see you. Yeah, Chris. But yeah, I could, William. I could sit here and go step by step. I could create a history channel, which I plan on doing on Rumble, possibly if I have time, because with one channel you can have a bunch of different, or with one whatever you can have a bunch of different channels. I forget how that works, but yeah. There is a lot that we could talk about and we could explore, things that we could get into that just would blow your mind. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, like, that Amanita muscaria mushroom is actually Santa Claus. It's weird. I mean, it's weird stuff, but it's the truth, man. It is just the truth. And people don't like it. They don't like when you twist their paradigm or turn it on its ear. But the bottom line is this: we're running out of time. And Jill, I'm going to say this. We don't have a lot of time. There's a time and a place for everything. And right now is not the time to stick our head in the sand. And the people that are dominating the Bigfoot field, I'll just say this. It is time for that to be let go, because, golly, I mean, how long are we going to ignore? I mean, my book was about that. Josh Cutchins came on the show. His book was about that. Your film is about that. And then we are around them and they act like they're some kind of superior being or snobbery or something like that. Who the F are you? I mean, it's like, dude, are you serious? You've been walking in circles for 60 years.
Yeah, we've gotten a tremendous amount of pushback. It's gotten back to us. Other times it's been said right to our face. We're making a lot of people uncomfortable. And I think that's a good thing. And it's kind of like, especially with our sequel and where we're going with upcoming projects as well. You know, Dr. Michael Adams in our first documentary said, you know, the people who are coming forward and, you know, speaking their truth and sticking their necks out there, they need to be celebrated, because these are the people who are leading the way. I mean, with our documentaries and the fact that we've put the full interviews up on our YouTube channel, which is unheard of as far as like for documentaries, usually you kind of guard all that cutting room floor stuff. But no, we feel like everyone should have access to this information, because it's like you film like a 2 to 3 hour interview and you only end up using maybe a minute of it. There's so much information that people could be using, because there's all these different little pieces of the puzzle that can help people figure out their experience. And that's all we want to do, is just get the truth out there. And if it's going to make people uncomfortable, so be it. You know, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off.
Yep. And that saying is actually, it's the truth will set you free, but first it's going to make you miserable. And we don't know. There's several different sources as to where that came from. Most currently, Tony Merkel, that says that the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off. But that my dad used to say that first truth, it's going to make you mad. And I don't know if he came up with that on his own. He's a pretty smart guy. He's an electrical engineer, so maybe he did. Here's one thing. Somebody said something in the chat, and I got to say this. And Smurfy, I love you to death, but it says Texas was their own country. Mexico, laugh out loud. Haha. Really? Because Texas was its own country longer than Mexico had control of it. Do you know that? That's a little myth. At 15 years. That's how long Mexico had Texas. And in fact, in 1836, do you know how many Mexican people were in Texas? Less than 5,000. You know why? One word: Comanches. See, right here. I got it on my shirt. My grandmother's Comanche. That's why. So that's not an argument. You can say that, but that's not the truth. People, it's not politically correct to say those things, but I am actually half Mexican. I can say this. It's the truth, man. I'm just being honest, man. People don't like to hear it. But back to what you were saying, Jill, this, you making people feel uncomfortable, that's exactly what needs to happen. I get attacked every day, Jill. Every day I wake up, I'm told that I'm a big fat poo-poo caca head and that I need to go and hurry up and die and go to hell and be with the devil. I get told these things by various people that are very important in this world because they think they are. And they have an opinion. But opinions are like, you know what? And everyone has one, like belly buttons. But the thing is, their opinion means as much to me as a fresh bucket of squirrel vomit. I could actually not care, and every day they tell me how despicable and horrible I am because I'm trying to take them away from their God. I'm trying to take them away from the real truth. I'm trying to take them to another reality. I'm abducting their minds into some other dimension. Here is the freaking hard, cold facts. And I will tell you this right now. There is a huge market for the Anunnaki beliefs. There is a huge market for the ancient alien beliefs. You don't think these guys that are out there doing this stuff, they're making big money and they're actually making huge documentaries. In fact, some of them were at the conference you were at, Jill, in Utah. Those people are movers and shakers in that arena. So if I wanted to make money at this and I wanted my audience to be more whatever, I could move in that direction and I would get millions of subscribers. I would. And I know exactly how I could do it too. I could play the algorithms. I could easily do it. I could do everything to make it that way, but I'm not. I'm trying to reach the people that need to be reached.
You know, yes. And Brett and I've had that conversation. It's like, you know, if we didn't care, we could just go, there's a lot of things we could do, but I feel like I feel like there's like an invisible hand kind of guiding us through these projects. And we're just trying to get the truth out. We want to take the stigma off of having these conversations so people will be comfortable sharing what they've experienced. I mean, how many people have you talked to who are like, I've never shared my story, and or they're like, there's a sense of shame or whatnot. But once they start finding other people, it's like a support group. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat who've been able to like work through like their encounters and whatnot once they were able to find a community. And that's all we're trying to do is just, you know, and it's the people that we're showcasing in these documentaries. A lot of them, you know, they've never shared their story before. They've never gone on camera, but what they've experienced, they thought they were like in this little silo and did not understand that other people were having these things, the shape-shifting, the cloaking. My gosh, if I had $1 for every time someone said, this sounds crazy, but they were talking to me, well, then we could finance our projects. So, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I mean, you can always sell out, but at the end of the day, you have to answer to two people, you know, and I don't want to end knowing that I sold out. So.
Don't do it because, you know, they're trying. I'm not say they. I'm not going to. Tolstoy says when you say they, you don't know who they are. We know exactly who they are. This is somebody who's connected. But they have offered me $750,000 now, and I'm like, that doesn't even. That's not. It's really insulting to me too. I mean, they think that I'm go. Oh, that's a lot of money. Let me go and throw away everything I built. The numbers. I gave them a ridiculous number to meet. So if they come back and they give me what I want, which is no compete clause, 2 years, I'll take 2 years off. People won't forget me in 2 years. I promise. I'll be right back being as loud and obnoxious as always. You know, and so 2 years, but you give me automatic 2-year employment, you know, it's a certain salary that they got to meet. And then they're going to laugh at this and throw it in, you know, in the garbage, unless they're got the retardation, which I don't think they do. I think they're slick. And they don't like that I've talked about them, and they even sent me a message saying, that's not a good thing to do, Josh. I'm like, don't call me Josh. Call me Mr. Turner. And you know who you are. You know what you said, and you've gone to a couple other people to try to tell me, to get them to say something to me. The thing is, those guys aren't going to – they come to me and say, well, I shouldn't even say that. But the bottom line is they don't agree, and I don't either. And it's not going to happen because they want you to be quiet so you focus on story time. Let's just retell people's encounters, and they're going to want to pick now what you talk about. So they want people like you and me and our friend Barton there and everybody else that's making them uncomfortable to be in this little fishbowl, right? And they give us the little bit of information, and then we regurgitate it, you know, and we poop it out or whatever, or we, you know, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. How does that benefit anybody but them?
No, and one of the things that we are running into now, I mean, you know, with the flash of beauty, what we tried to do is we didn't want to sensationalize or make it like this, like the scary monster in the woods. We did want to focus on kind of the awe, like people seeing things that are, I mean, their Bigfoot encounter like changed their life. It's a paradigm. It opened their eyes, their mind, and we wanted to just portray it in a different way. And but that's not to say we do get the reports and the stories that are darker, but it's also there's a responsibility, I think, in how you put those stories out. So we're trying to figure out the best way to move forward with some of that material. Almost like a cryptid PSA of sorts of be careful of when you're out in the woods. But
that's the most important thing that we need to emphasize. Martin Groves. You know who Martin Groves is? I think you do.
Mm-hmm.
Martin's encounter typifies what the kind of encounters that people weren't talking about it, because the shows back, I wouldn't even go that far back, maybe a few years ago, the shows, you couldn't say things like that. You'd be like, oh my gosh, you had a Bigfoot and a dog man in the same, oh my gosh, like what, this is crazy. Like, dude, come on. But this is happening, and it's happening all over the place. And then we're supposed to pretend like it's not. We're supposed to pretend like, there's this whole, what do you call it? Like I don't know how to say it. Like this, like the world is not the way it really is, and we're all playing pretend roles. And when you step out of the pretend role, they're like, "What are you doing? Get back in there and be this actor for us to pretend to be." And you're not wanting to do it anymore. You're just like, I'm done pretending. And these people who have money invested in it, and I'll say they're really minor players. Anytime you're a host of a show on TV, you're really not big shit. There's a couple that are doing, the guy that takes his shirt off and yells at demons, and then the other guy whose name ends with Maker. Okay, those guys, they're doing something. They're doing, but everybody else is just kind of there. They're just kind of there. And we're hanging on and going like, oh, okay, yeah, let's have another season of that bullshit. Because what are you finding? What are you finding? You haven't found shit, and you're not going to find anything. And you know what you do? You take reports that people give you and you whitewash them to make them fit a certain narrative.
Have you been following what's happened recently with all that narrative?
Yes and no. I've been kind of like really busy and caught up in my own work, whatever. But yeah, I know. I'm somewhat.
Yeah. There's been for whatever reason, he's come out and he's acknowledging the orbs. He's acknowledging the paranormal element. But really, I mean, there needs to be some sort of atonement for the people that he's put through the ringer. I've talked to numerous people who have butted heads because their reports contain paranormal elements. And I know you've talked about that as well. I mean, involving certain people.
Yeah, and one of the problems too, and I'll say this, is that I had an interaction with this individual, and he was smarmy enough to tell me to send him my Bigfoot encounter. Which he got that because we got into it on a one of the groups on Facebook. I was always stalking around the groups, like they said I was always stalking around. I'm stalking. I'm trying to hunt down stories, man. That's what I'm doing. That's I'm a story hunter. Is what I do. And so there were some people telling some tales on there, and I wanted to check it out, And then this guy says there is no dog man. Period. Like that's the final word on it, dude. And I said, like I told one of his colleagues recently, I said, it's kind of hard for me to not believe in it because I saw it. And they said, but by your own admission, you said that it wasn't Dogman, it was a werewolf. I said, what the hell's the difference, man? Potato, potato. That's how you're going to get me. That's the hill.
A technicality.
Yeah, you're going to hamstring me on a technicality. The hill you're going to die on is whether or not it's a werewolf or a dog, man. Give me a break. Which one is which? And which one's real? I mean, let's quit getting caught up in the minutia. And let's talk about the real deal. The real McCoy, the elephant in the room that nobody wants to address is that there is some weird stuff that goes on associated with Bigfoot and with Dogman. It's weird. There's weird stuff going on. And let's pretend like it's not happening. Let's just pretend, because you know why? It fits a narrative for a television show that's been going on for years. And I'm going to quote one of my friends who's big in this field. He was in the chat. I'm not talking about Bart. There was another guy. And I'm not going to put him on the spot. He's got his own thing he's doing. But he said, I challenge anyone to go back and watch reruns of their shows. It's like if you were to go, to me, it'd be akin to going and using the bathroom and then going to, let's go see what's in there. Because how can I look, you know what I mean? Like, I can't do it. It just disgusts me that they're out there goofing around and they're really trivializing the subject, really. Mm-hmm. They're making money off of it, and then they're telling everyone else this is how it's supposed to be. No, that's not how it's supposed to be. And they're going to learn a hard lesson coming up when people can go to Tubi, right? Or YouTube or whatever, and they can, or Amazon Prime, and they can make documentaries. People like Seth and you guys, Christopher Garetano, Eric Palacios, all of you guys that are making documentaries and films, Greg Ogle's another one. You guys are doing what needs to be done, and then they're really focusing on it's weird. I'm not saying that I'm super important to this. I'm not. What I'm saying is though that their focus seems to be on their hate for me, because I get under their skin somehow. So that these people that are always attacking me like an angry hive of bees, they have all these. There's like a coalition of the stupid that's come together. I never thought I could bring atheists, fundamentalist Christians, truth deniers, and communists all together, but I've done that. I've managed to do that. Amazing.
You need that on a T-shirt, like with them all holding hands or something. That would be.
But I've managed to do that. I mean, I brought people together for the conference. I brought the community together, but then I brought all the idiots together too in one boat, and the boat is leaking, and everybody wants to blame everybody else, and then they all just said, "Okay, let's work together and blame this one guy." Because he's saying mean things that we don't like. And then he makes fun of us on his little skits or whatever. The bottom line, some people need to be made fun of, and they need to be, because they're frauds, they're hoaxers, and they do what they do. But I think these people that do these shows are the biggest ones of all. Because a very, very popular guy in this field, and you know him and I know him, and he's a very close friend of mine, and he was on a show. And they fabricated a moose carcass, right? And he was walking and he trips over it, and they're like, "What is that?" And he goes, "Well, one of y'all fabricated a moose carcass." And they stop the filming and they get real indignant. They're like, "You're not supposed to, don't talk like that. Don't act like you know what's going on." And like, you're supposed to suspend reality for these people and pretend and play pretend. Right then and there, I'm going to give you my wolf guarantee that if I'm on a show in any shape or form and they told me to fake and pretend, that's when it ends for me. And I'm not going to lie to you. There are people who've messaged me trying to get me to go and do stuff. And I told them, am I going to be an executive producer? How much control do I have? Well, we need to, or don't message me. How about that? Because I'm not going to bend to your will. It's not going to happen. And then one guy said, "Well, we've heard you were difficult to work with." Well, yeah, probably. Because my truth is I don't want to work with you. I don't want to work with the big networks. I do not. I'm friends with a couple of the people who have shows, and I'll help them out. I'll give them some witnesses, because those people, it's cathartic for some of them. Some of them, it's more traumatic, and I'm not going to give it to you, but I'll give you some people that are willing to do it, right? They're okay with it. We know they are. But beyond that handful of people, I'm not into this. I didn't even want to be on These Woods Are Haunted. I was talked into it. So the bottom line is this: I have my thing. I do my thing. I don't care to be on those shows. If I go on those shows, you better damn well believe I have something to say. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. I tell them when they come to me to ask me for something, I've been very upfront, and I just said, "Give me this." And they're like, "Well, we can't do that." Well, then forget it. I'm not going to leave my business here and to go and gallivant to LA or this most recent one to New York. For what? I don't have any place. I don't have any business to be there. I don't need to be there. "Oh, well, you'll get exposure and it'll help build your career." This isn't my career, dude. If you've heard me say it before, I have a career. This isn't it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a person that comes into this field who's not needing anything from them, who doesn't care what they think about them, who gets private funding if people so choose to give it to me. I don't ask for it, and I don't need it. I mean, if people want to help, it's only to help the show. That's it. All my money goes right back into this show. And it's just to put out more information and more information. And then I get these crypto threats. Some of it may just be some crackpot Luciferian people, whatever. But some of them could be the real deal, telling me, be quiet, shut up. One guy even messaged, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. I'm assuming with the aggression, it was a male. But he said, do you like having on top of your head? And I said, what are you going to do? Shoot me from the grassy knoll? Because you sure ain't going to get close enough for me to see you. I know that. But this is the kind of stuff that they're doing. They're trying to terrorize me, and then they want to terrorize anybody that works with me so that they'll go, oh, let's just stay away from that guy. He's a troublemaker. He's full of drama, because I'm saying things that they don't like. And I will go to a conference and I will say it to their face. And in fact, I will really do that. If they let me get up on, I did it in Jefferson. And it wasn't really very popular. And Barton was there. I got up and I stood up and I took the microphone and I said some things that 200 people didn't like what I said. Well, too damn bad. Bigfoot is not a giant monkey man running around in the freaking woods. I'm sorry, case closed. It is not. And I say that as fervently as Troublemaker said about Dogman not being real, because I've seen something that they call Dogman and I know it's real. Now, I don't know because I haven't seen Bigfoot. My wife has, but I can tell you this. I believe it's real because I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. Now, you got guys like Carter Bashar who go out there and he says, I worked with the BFRO, right? And he says, look, they're doctoring reports. This is simple as that. Got a problem with it? Sue me. So what? I got lawyers too. It'll go nowhere. We'll go in circles. The whole point is this. I'm never going to stop. They're never going to control me. They're not going to control the narrative. And I hope that you and Brett stick by your guns, stand by what you're supposed to be doing, and don't let them bully you or push you. Don't let them do it, because when you're up there with those people at those conferences and everybody's making the big hoopla about them, their time is limited. And at some point, people are going to be like, okay, enough is enough. You can only run around in the woods knocking on trees like a bunch of knuckleheads until it gets to the point where you can't do it anymore. And people are getting tired of you yanking your shirt off and cussing at demons and whatever you're doing, whatever your bag is, it's going to get old at some point, because where are the reports? They get this one or two reports and they run to the woods and nothing happens. I could shoot an entire season of Finding Nothing or Goofy Adventures in like one night with a camera. I could go to 6 different places here and do everything they do and find absolutely nothing and act like Scooby and Shaggy and literally make a show. It would be that easy. That's what they do. But yet it's marketed as some sort of an amazing thing. We are being spoon-fed shit on a cracker and we're eating it. That's the sad thing. But then again, people eat McDonald's, and I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. So you need to stick by your guns, Jill.
Yeah. And, and think of it this way. The people that you're upsetting, what you're doing is giving other people permission to come forward with their stories and their experiences and their belief system to share what they think's going on. And again, like I said, everyone has a piece of the puzzle, and it's just a matter of like coming together, removing the stigma, and eventually when enough people are talking about it, I think a lot of people, they have to kind of start, turning the corner. Once it's like for the sequel, our slogan's been "The paranormal is normal," and once these conversations get normalized, then people are more comfortable talking about it.
Mm-hmm. And when you go to these conferences, and I know, and I'm not going to say names or put you on the spot, but I know that there was somebody who was rude to you, and they're rude, and they're notorious for being that way. But I mean, you're nice. Like, you're very nice. If I was there and somebody and they acted that way, it would be on YouTube, because I would be saying things and people would start videoing it, and I would get up there and I would say things like incendiary things, and I would challenge them with cases that they need to go and look at that they can't find the answers for. They can't find answers anyway. But I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible because what they're looking for, literally, it's not a ghost, it's not a phantom. It's real. It's there. It's like it's tangible, you know. But they're never going to find it ever. Now they can fake it. I mean, heck, the country was fooled into believing that we went to the moon the first time. But I mean, they can fake it. But who's how are they going to do this? Because it's just a basically a cat chasing its tail. That's all it is. And they just keep doing it and keep doing it, and people keep watching it, and I cannot understand it. And one of them, I had a witness from Washington. I can't remember if she came on the show or I retold her encounter. I think she was a guest one night on the show, but her and her sister had a Bigfoot encounter, and one of them had their grandson was going down by the creek, and one of those people told my witness, that it was okay for her grandson to go play down there where the Bigfoot was. That the Bigfoot was like a giant squirrel and it wouldn't hurt him. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Yeah.
Not sure about that one. Mm-hmm. Not sure about that.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that it will hurt him. I'm sure of that. I don't believe that anybody should be telling an elderly woman that it's completely safe. And you know what it is? This woman didn't buy into it, but a lot of people would, because why? Well, it's on TV. He's on TV. He's some kind of expert, right? So he would know.
Yeah, but Josh, look at all the idiots who go to Yellowstone and try to pet the bison. I mean, we're not, some people just don't get it. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy. So I hope I'm going to get out of here, folks. Jill, thank you for coming on. It wasn't planned. Jill was not expected to come on, but she did. And so sorry if I talked a lot, but next time you come on, I'm going to give you the floor and let you talk. I'd like to put together a show with a female, an all-female cast, a co-host. And I was thinking, have you been on the Blondes and Booze? Have you been on with them?
No, not yet.
No.
Not yet.
You need to. Give me a Thursday. Next week we got Juan Arturo Mata, who had a really amazing encounter at the Paralysis National State Park here, which is where a lot of things happen, a lot of weird things. Something weird happened to him. He's going to be on Blondes and Booze on Thursday. Last Thursday we had Chris Kramer, who I set that one up, but I couldn't be there because I was ill, wasn't feeling good. I hadn't been sleeping good at all. But I would like to get you on Blondes and Booze, and then I would like to do a roundtable with you two. With you and the other two ladies, Krista and Brandy, and maybe Anne Celine and a couple other people who, because Anne's had this paranormal Bigfoot encounter. And I think that it's important that your voices are heard. I really do. And there's a lot that can be learned from you guys, because I said this before, I say it on the show, and not just because you're here and you're female, but this is the truth. I think women have a sixth sense intuition that men don't have. I really do. I think we complement each other, men and women. There's a certain thing that happens there, And so when you're out in the field, I think having male and female is important, because if it's a group of men, I think typically these things get more aggressive based on the level of testosterone that's out there. But I don't think for a second that they're nice or good, or that they won't hurt you. I don't believe that at all. That's crazy. That is crazy. And they're going around telling people this. And then you show up on a panel or something and they want to get snarky. Oh my God, that would not go well with me. But I don't really go to many conferences. I get invited to do certain things. I get invited to go on certain people's shows, and no offense to anybody, but I won't do a show if I don't know you. I just won't do it. And so, people are like, you want to stay in your own safety, comfort, whatever. Who doesn't? Right? My guinea pigs, they were all in their little house today. They were scared because Godzilla was above them eating their lettuce and tomatoes. So who doesn't want to be safe? But at some point, you got to come out and you got to show yourself. I do it all the time. I come out and people say, I want to be safe. I'm right here. This isn't my fortress of solitude. I'm just here. And I applaud what you're doing. Next time you come on, it's planned. I got some questions for you. I'd like if Brett would come on too. That would be good. Folks,
and I tried to get him. So we're leaving Monday. We're working on Ron Moorhead's documentary about the Sierra Sounds based on Voices in the Wilderness. So Brett's actually prepping all the gear and trying to get everything ready for rolling out at crack of dawn.
Well, I hope you guys stay safe. I hope next time if we do another conference, we that you guys make it, and the last conference had 100 and something more people than the first conference. It's like 600 people I think showed up or something like that. It's not bad. And I predict if we do it again, it'll be bigger. It'll just keep growing. I mean, if I were to keep doing it, I'm sure it would get bigger. But I have other things I got to do. I have other irons in the fire, and unfortunately, we had to cancel because of so many threats. I pissed people off. I'm one of the Joneses, right? I'm Jerry Jones, Jim Jones, and Alex Jones all rolled into one. I'm the Jones.
It's a triple J, the triple J threat.
The triple J threat. That's right. And you and Brett are out there, pissing people off. I mean, because you're finding the truth. And the thing is, you're like everyone else. You didn't start off. You started out flesh and blood like I did, thinking it's a big monkey out there, right? I mean, that's what it was.
Well, yeah, because, so I am from Oregon. So growing up in this area, it's part of the lifestyle, and, you just assume there's something out in the woods, and I didn't think much more of it. Like, okay, it's hard to see. It's rare. It's just hasn't been cataloged. And then away we go. And, we started doing the documentaries, and I found out there was a lot more to it.
Mm-hmm. And everybody, tell them where they can find your documentary.
Oh, yeah. So A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed, and the sequel, A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot, they are available on Amazon. If you go to our YouTube channel, which is A Flash of Bigfoot, we do have the first documentary up there, along with the full interviews from everyone in the first documentary. And by the end of summer, we'll be releasing the full interviews for the sequel.
And there you have it, folks. Jill Remenschneider, thank you for coming on just on the whim. That was awesome. And thank you and tell Brett I said hey, and thank you. And eventually, you guys, we need to record. We need to do something
definitely.
For the podcast, because the podcast has thousands and thousands of people that don't watch YouTube. And it is a younger audience too. So, you get that, support or whatever, people that want to know and they're learning. So
very cool.
Yeah. All right, Jill, I'll see you. Thank you for coming on, and
thanks,
good
Josh.
night.
Yeah. Have a good one.
I had a good time.
Take care.
All right, bye. So that was Jill Remenschneider. And so William Bedard says something interesting here. What is this, William? He says, Smurfy, I don't know anymore, but when Josh brings up numbers, you and I are the only ones that catch it and call them out. And then what was that in response to? Because I don't run from comments. So anybody who has anything to say, I just bring it out there. And I'm sure you guys aren't trying to start anything. Okay, William Bedard, but you get Stephen Gerst saying they offered me $2 billion. They didn't offer me $2 billion, Smurfy. They offered me $750,000. Is that a lot of money to you? Because it's not to me. I don't mean in a way that, it's not a lot of money. I could use $750,000. I could do a lot with it. But the problem is that I would lose control of everything I've built. And it wasn't me. I shouldn't say that. What we've built. Me and my people and y'all together have built this, not me. I didn't do it by myself. Like I said before, without y'all, I'd be a man up here just talking crazy, talking to himself in the mirror, right? That's not me. But to these people, these dickheads, they think that your $750,000 is a lot of money to you, that you need it, and you'll go, oh, okay, I'll do that. And you'll jump and you'll do whatever they want. They didn't offer me $2 billion. Give me a break, dude. If they offered me $2 billion, I would take it. And then I would just use the legal system to get right back into where I needed to be. It'd be the great train robbery. Because they would not silence me. They would not stop me, nor would I work for them. I would just use that money to get my way back into where I need to be. Even if I had to wear a mask and change my name. It's not going to stop me. They know the only way to stop me. That's it. There's only one way. I think you know. And Daniela says, what's gold good for? Wearing? No, gold. Do you not know what gold does, Daniela? Gold is used. Let's just say it's very conductive, and it's used. It's better than copper. Well, we use copper because it's more abundant, it's much cheaper. If you took all the gold in the entire world, and I don't mean the 10 karat, 14 karat, I'm talking about 24 karat, 999, whatever. It would be about 30 foot high, and it would be about the length of a tennis court, and about the width of it too. All the gold that we've mined up to this point, which is a big, huge chunk of gold, but still, that's not a lot. Talking about pure gold here. So gold is used in semiconductors. I mean, there's a lot of uses for it. It means a lot more than just wearing it. But it is the only metal that is this color. Like when you look at bronze and there's all these other alloyed metals that you can come up with, and then some that are, but they're not nothing. Gold is very unique. Like when look at silver and look at platinum, they look the same. And you can make white gold. You can make gold any color. Did you know that? You could make blue gold. You could make red gold, which is rose gold, but making it more red by putting more copper in it. You can make black gold by scorching it and making a necklace that's black, but it's gold. There's all kinds of different types of gold, but there's only really the gold is when you say gold, you know what that color is. A yellowish metal color. So tonight was a good show. We talked about a lot of things. Y'all know that the Saturday show is a little different, and you never know what's going to happen. Jill was not supposed to be on the show, and so if you feel like I overtalked her, I apologize. But the thing is, that was not part of the show. She was just going to come on and give some of her opinions, and I wanted to give her a little voice there where her and Brett could talk about their project, because I do think that what they've done is important. And I think that A Flash of Beauty is it's causing a lot of ripples. People are not happy about it. You know why they're not happy? Because it destroys their little stupid ass narrative. Little stupid ass narrative that your little stupid ass narrative. I ain't effing with you. All these people talking. Just be quiet. They're always talking about they're going to do this, they're going to do that. You ain't going to do nothing. Be quiet. That's a very good question. Jake S. says, hey, Wolf, quick question. Do you think there's a correlation between people with a certain blood type that can be traced back to something that, you know what? Save it for Rumble next week, and we'll get into the blood types. We'll get into all kinds of things, and we can say things that we don't say, we dare not say on YouTube. You might look at me differently. Oh, well, it's just part of it, man. I'm nobody's hero. You know, that's what Puffy said. He was like, don't ever meet your heroes. Don't make me your hero. Believe me, you'll be disappointed. Because one day I'm going to say something that you're not going to agree with. And your paradigm, you'll be forced to choose with your paradigm. Which way? I'm not always going to be the popular guy. But you know what? I'm going to be the guy that's the closest to the real deal. I can tell you that. Reading the comments here. You got something, put in caps. Next Saturday, folks, we got it. We're coming. We're bringing it. We're bringing it to the new platform, the next frontier. I have landed on the moon. One small step for me, one giant big deal for you. I'm happy to be here. It's dark and there's stars around. Wow. Utterly epic. Are there aliens here? Well, that's what we're going to try and find out. And that's how it would be if they used him. Look into Midnight Ritual. What for? Give me a reason. Could dress as a Mexican wrestler. Actually, I already did that. I wore my luchador mask twice because I was called a dirty whatever by Dirty Waters, who's another person that's over there angry. He's angry. Oh, you ain't finna get away with. I'm the greatest storyteller the world has ever seen. I'm gonna tell you a story right after I get my computer to type it up for me. Dogman walks into a bar, meets Godzilla. Then a nun walks in. Shazam! You got a story. There it is. Good. Good for you. You've achieved nirvana. Congratulations. Now that you are deceased, let us show you to your quarters. It's very hot here. And the temperature's only going to go up. But I stood in the gap. I cast out demons. I did a lot of good things. You also did a lot of bad things. You told Mr. Turner that your God hated him. You could have done this. Can you read that? Well, this camera ain't worth a toot. It's not even going to let me do it. It says, be quiet, be calm, be kind. That's all I can tell you, man. Ain't nobody move when we walk the street. They stay silent because talk is cheap. You heard that from the immortal words of Tupac? Tupac Shakur. Used to be my favorite rapper, man, and then they killed him. I quit with rap after that. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to let this dude be killed in cold blood, and nobody's going to do shit about it. When you know who did it. Why? Oh, that's right, because he had dirt on all these big name people because they were all doing things they weren't supposed to be doing. So I guess when you have that kind of power, you can kill people, right? And then they use the Bible. Well, the God of Israel said that you could go and you could kill and you could do and blah, blah, bleeder, 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 bleeder. You know, the God of Israel is angry and he's jealous and he wants blood sacrifice. How does that work? Right? And then you take Jesus' words, and now there's this big movement where people are like, I believe in God, but not Jesus. And they want to throw Jesus out, just throw him out the game, throw him out the mix. You know why? Because then you can read the Old Testament and all the things that God does in the Old Testament that are justified by the priesthood, you can do them and you can be like, hey, I'm just like God. I was created in his image. So I can do all the things that he does and be jealous and angry and do all kinds of crap because that is not really God. Y'all are saying that this is God doing this. God doesn't do these things. That is not God. God is the person, being, whatever you want, because people want to relate to him. He's not a person, but I know y'all want to relate to him because you want to be like him. You really can't, newsflash. But the God that you think that is your God, take a hard look at it. And then look at what Jesus says about God. Now, are you a Christian or are you another faith? Because the Muslims and the Jews don't believe like we do. They don't believe in Christ. Or they would be called Christians. So stop believing like them and be a Christian. And listen to the words of Christ that tells you this isn't correct. He tells the children of Israel, you're wrong. and you're worshiping the wrong guy, and you are of the synagogue of Shaitan, which is Satan. It says it right there over and over and over again. He fights the Pharisees, the controllers of the priesthood, right? He tells you, pay attention, listen, read, and then stop fighting about it, because the truth is right there. There are books that were taken out of the Bible. What cracks me up about you Protestants is that you sit there and go, I don't like them Catholics, man. Them Catholics is some, I'm an Aggie, I'm dumb. They were stupid shit. You know why? Because the Catholics are the ones that took and made the Bible that you freaking read and defend with your life. And you refuse to look at the truth of history or to read anything that supports anything other than that narrow narrative that you're trying to spin. Hating your neighbors because they have a different religion. They're allowed, to me, they can believe whatever they want, and I'm not going to impose my will on them. I won't do it. But I'm not going to believe like them. And I don't believe like you. It's just the truth. You don't like it, and people get mad. So they've all gotten together in this little coalition of the willing so that they can knock me out. Because I'm too much. Right? The voice of reason, while you're wandering in the wilderness, the voice of sanity comes to you and tells you, and y'all are like, oh no, that'll never work. Let's just keep running in circles and, picking at our scabs and eating them. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous people. Bunch of booger pickers, man. I bet you these people, they eat their boogers, man. I bet they do. I bet they sit there and they watch me and they're like, oh, I hate this guy, man. And they just gobble. I bet they chomp on bugs, dude. I bet they gobble them up, dude. I bet they do. Bunch of booger chomping, booger eating fools, man. What do you think? Window lickers. Yes, exactly. Dark relief. Window lickers. That's it. That's what they are. I challenge them to get together and take an IQ test. Let's see who's smarter. I'll even let you all add your IQs together. We'll see. Personally, I like there's this one IQ test. It was written by Pamela White. It's actually pretty good. I would recommend that one, but there's several others that we can look at. Mine will be in the 160s. Don't get alarmed, okay? Yours is going to be really, really low. Maybe 100, but actually 100's average now in America. Yeah, 20 years ago it was 110, but now we've lowered it because we're like, hey, it's okay to be stupid, right? It's hip to be dumb. Cult of ignorance. The cult of ignorance and the cult of death. And they go hand in hand because it's so fun to be stupid that it's even fun to die. Right? Go join the military and go die. That's what they want you to do. Pretty soon they're going to go, hey, funny thing is, we started World War III. Yeah, it was all this whole thing in the Middle East. And yeah, the people, they want us to go and fight. So look, where are your children at? Can we use them? Have they been abducted yet? No. Okay, can we? Because I would like to bring them into the military to go to the Middle East and fight for some people that they don't fucking know. That's coming. Watch what I say on Rumble. Good night, folks.